Italy has offered Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg the use of the Colosseum for their fight. Please, I don't know who may be out there, a higher power, whatever you are, please, all I ask is to make that happen. Could you guys imagine? The Colosseum, lights, cameras, the stage, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg. That'd be the greatest thing ever. So, we're going to talk about that. And then we got a bunch of news. I guess it's news. Joe Biden is going to bypass the Supreme Court rulings because, he's fairly corrupt, but sure, whatever. Michigan is making it a felony to use the wrong pronouns. What else is new? And in France, there's a major riot going on. A Republican congressman said that he thinks alien ships may actually be from a lost civilization. Hey, it's a Friday night. But we're going to get into all that. But before we get started, my friends, we're going to give a shout out to Silence Do Good. Check this out. This is a comic produced by one of the Timcast members. If you go to turkeyrobot.com, you can check out more, and support the Silence Do Good comic. We have here their Indiegogo project for Silence Do Good time travel agent. They say, what if America's most prolific founding father found himself trapped inside a VR program controlled by AI? If you want to support the comic, again, turkeyrobot.com, Salty, Alan Rhodes, Charles Knopf, special thanks to you guys for being members. And I want to just shout out the best image I've seen so far. This right here is part of the comic. And clearly, it's an allusion to Joe Biden. But the symbol of the authoritarian regime is a red line with a blue line going up, jumping above the red line and moving forward. I thought that was terribly clever. Terribly amazing. So special thanks to you guys for being members, turkeyrobot.com. Also, don't forget to go to timcast.com, become a member, support our work. You can click join us. No members only show tonight. Those are Monday through Thursday, but with your direct support, you help make all of this possible. We got a couple cool people joining us tonight, so smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. We got Alex Stein.
Pimp on a blimp. Let's go insane for the Ukraine. Let's do it.
Okay. Ashley St. Clair is still here.
Hello, I haven't left. They've kept me kidnapped here. I had to eat sushi and look at a skate park.
Yes, that was fun.
So you admit it, there's a skate park.
That's a big conspiracy.
It's there.
Hannah Claire is here.
Oh, hey,
She's already talking.
Sorry, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for timcast.com.
Hi, everyone. Ian Crossland here, too. I read that comic. I like it. Silence Do Good. Cool stuff, man. You guys did a great job. That's really interesting. It's intriguing. For like a 6-page preempt, that's really cool. Thanks.
It's well done.
It's Kellen filling in Friday for Serge. And I just want to say happy birthday, Grimace. So shout out.
We love you, Grimace. R.I.P.
All right.
I think he died today, too. I know it's his birthday, but I think he died as well.
Let's jump into the first story. The only story that matters. Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, Italian government offer. Fight like true gladiators at the Colosseum. The Ministry of Culture's office issued a statement saying there have been no... Okay, so they're already raining on our parade. This is the update literally as of right now. There has been no formal contact from the ministry nor any written document. Even if the news appears tasty, it is unfounded. The initial report was that an official from the government of Italy contacted Zuckerberg about staging a UFC fight against Elon at the most legendary battleground in the world. You know why I think it's more likely they did make the offer? I think they're panicking. And they're saying, no, we never made this offer. No, I think someone probably did. I think someone was like a preliminary. Look, if someone in Italy was going to entertain the possibility, the first thing you got to do is figure out if Elon and Zuckerberg would do it. You can't go to the government and say, hey, let's prepare the Colosseum for a UFC fight. We'll book them later. No. The first thing we'll do is they'll go to Mark Zuckerberg and say, hey, how would you feel about fighting at the Colosseum? Zuckerberg tells somebody, the story goes viral, and it was preliminary in the sense that you need to know for sure they want to do it before you make any moves to prepare for it. But what do you think, Alex?
You don't think they would just fake it for the publicity and just say that I mean, it's a possibility? I don't believe anything that I read in the news. So I think that they could just be...
Oh, you think media's just lying about it?
I mean, yeah, they're just trying to get some clout or...
I just want to believe it's true,
Elon tweeted it.
I know, I want to believe it's true.
He tweeted it. Elon said there's a high possibility the fight happens at the Coliseum.
Oh,
that's where it should happen.
And as he says, the most entertaining outcome is the most likely.
I highly agree with that.
That would be the most entertaining outcome.
Do you think Elon's just manifesting, though? Like, no one from Italy was...
I don't think he needs to manifest. He probably actually
What if he's a huge believer in manifesting?
Hey,
That's how he's going to get a fight at the Coliseum.
We got his tweet right here. He said, some chance fight happens in Coliseum.
I told you.
So
he needs to work on my endurance.
It's a non-zero chance. He said he needs to work on his endurance.
Yeah.
You know, Lex Friedman sparred with both these guys, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, and at the end of it all, he said, I love these guys. I had so much fun. I want them to to be sparring partners. I don't want them to actually fight because, you break Elon Musk's brain. That's a big problem for a lot of people. Same with Zuck. So I kind of with Mark. I don't even think it has to be like wet blanket, like womp womp. It could be really great to see Elon and Mark spar and to see them become friends and work together for the future.
I would agree. I don't think Elon's mom is too happy either. You've seen her tweets.
Yeah.
Do you think Elon would consider a performance-enhancing neural link to help him in the fight if he hooked himself up to a computer to give him an advantage?
His neural net versus Zuckerberg's meta net?
Yeah, I mean,
they
they
could
could
read
use
each
Tim
other's...
Zuck's next
Somehow they
analytics.
both need to hook up to a computer and fight in the metaverse, and then nobody gets hurt.
If you were going to do a boxing match and you could somehow have like an augmented chip or system so that you could read your opponent's algorithm, like you could see their muscle, you could see what part of their muscles were getting hot, how fast parts of their body were moving, would you augment?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the future, we joke about this a lot, Ian, but I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm a tinfoil hat wearing, but I do believe that is the future, that they're going to tell people to plug into a computer, some sort of vanilla sky fake world, and you're going to live in some sort of pod, but on Earth, they're going to say, you only live till 70 years, but in this pod, you're going to live for 1,000 years. Because...
More than that.
Or more than that.
No. But I mean, more than just being immortal. They're going to say, in the pod, you can fly.
Yeah, oh yeah.
In the
quarterback
pod,
of the Dallas Cowboys.
What was that? You identify as a carrot? In the pod, you can be a carrot.
Exactly right.
In the pod, you are a carrot. Carrot world. Imagine somebody being like, I just feel like I was born in the wrong body. I'm a carrot. And then they plug you in and you go into a fake world where every other person is an AI generated NPC and they're carrots, and you live in a world where everyone's a carrot.
That'd be better than what's happening right now, to be honest.
Well,
Cutting
that's
off other limbs.
that's why they're making the world so
Go
bad.
be a metaverse carrot.
They want you to have such a terrible life, just be totally basically destitute, can't make any money, so that your only option is that you live in this computer where you're a millionaire.
It's a long-term marketing scheme.
Yes.
I mean, is Cypher wrong when he's eating the steak and he's like, I don't care?
That's the best part of the movie, really.
Yeah.
I think about it, because... Like, do you really want to go back to the Matrix? I probably would. I mean, if you're on a ship with a bunch of dudes like pooping,
In a bucket.
that movie's terrible. Or you can go to the fake metaverse where you can just eat steak and be a
But
billionaire.
once you know, dude, once you know, it's like knowing that your body is in some metal tank, in a pod being pumped full of bugs. No steak would ever taste as good. You'd be like constantly like, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. But my dreams feel real sometimes. You've had a dream that felt real.
How do you get?
But what is that? I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying in the metaverse or whatever, when you're plugged in, your dreams could feel like it's real. I mean, I've had sex in a dream and it felt real. I mean, I've eaten in a dream. It seemed like I was eating food.
Every time I try punching in a dream, my hands just move real slow.
That is
Yeah,
weird.
so running away, you're like, oh.
The worst.
Reading.
But you know what I still have? Do you guys have stress dreams? I have a dream and it's recurring. I don't have it as much anymore, where I like wake up in the middle of the night and it's a friend calling me and he's like, "Why aren't you at the exam right now?" And I get a zero.
I have
on the
that. I have
test.
that regularly. Like
I don't have that because I didn't go to
regular
school.
dreams about missing exams.
No, it was like I always had this dream when I was in college that I had signed up for a class and then somehow forgotten about it, and on the last day of the semester you remember and you have to go take a final.
Yeah, or it's like it's
just that
something
you have
like
like
that.
something you have forgotten. That sense is always.
It'll be like a
there.
football game. Like I'll be in high school and it'll be like, "Oh, I got a football game tonight and I can't get there." It's weird.
Yeah, I have dreams like that, but it's more like I missed the show.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
like I'll have a
stress
dream
yeah.
where it's like we're our car broke down in DC and it's like we're not gonna make it back in time. What do we do? And I'm like, wow, I'm gonna miss it.
Mine where I'd be have a play that night and I didn't know my lines. I forgot to memorize my lines, but I'm all going on stage in the dream, and it's like, ugh,
Yeah.
My
I have this
my dreams
recurring
are
nightmare
fun.
where Alex Stein is boxing a guy, and
that's terrifying.
That's a scary dream. Yeah, me.
but
boxing.
yeah, you're gonna be. Is that what's going on? What's going on? You're looking.
Unboxing, yes, guys, everybody. July 22nd, Misfits 008. You're looking at the newest Logan Paul wannabe, Primetime Alex Stein. I'm going head to head against Mo Dean in a no holds bar. Well, there are rules, so there are. Whatever, there are
Some
bars,
bars.
yeah. So you can hold some bars. There are rules in boxing gloves, but no helmet, no headgear, and it's 3 2-minute rounds. And Modine, you better watch out, dog, because I'm gonna bring the thunder and the lightning. If you know what I mean.
I was noticing you're looking a little thin.
I am. Thank you, Tim. Tim's been very nice to me. And to that girl last week, there's I'm telling you, I've never seen more sushi in my life. I thought I was in Japan when I walked in. You have a refrigerator full of. Why do you have so much sushi?
It's Friday.
I know, but you got a lot. I mean, there's a lot. There's a platter.
30 people who work here.
That was a lot of
We
sushi.
get 2 trays for like 30 people. Normally, like the scraps we throw to the chickens, but the chickens are in an emergency holding facility due to the air quality,
That's what I heard.
which is improved, so now they can come home. Yeah, the air quality is totally safe now. It rained. I'm very happy. This morning I was inhaling that oxygen stuff. Really works.
Yeah.
I got a
Yeah.
question
It was
about
nice.
everybody getting put in pods. You guys were talking about that earlier. So you said they think like they want people in pods just because like they want you to eat. At least I've talked about this. They want to like control people and make sure they don't go crazy. Put them in the pod. Do you think that people really believe that if we were happy and we started pairing up and having families and like communities, that would actually be a bad thing? Is there like a thought that would be bad somehow?
Yes, because they hate you.
Like what is it they hate? What do you think they hate?
You
that
are the
you're-
carbon they are trying to
Yes.
reduce.
Is it
You're a peasant
Well,
that
look,
they
look.
want to eradicate.
If you're like, imagine this. Imagine you have roommates who keep pooping on the floor. You would like to not have those roommates, correct?
That is true.
That's how they view you.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're like, look, we're over here trying to worship Moloch and, create a one world currency. And this guy, Ian Crossan's making these videos about abolishing the Federal Reserve. That's a problem for us.
And Ian,
But
it said it on the Georgia Guidestones. They want to reduce the population. just
Up,
to-
up, up, up. It said maintain a population under 500 million. It didn't say reduce the
Oh,
population.
I see what you're saying. Yes,
Right.
but there's a reason why they want a small population because they just want the elites and then basically like a housekeeping staff. So they just don't want there to be like 2 classes. And that's kind of where we're going. There is no middle class anymore. And that's why I think people have lost the American dream because nobody can afford a single family home. And if you look at like the price of a single family home in the 60s to now, I mean, it's impossible. Our parents had a lot easier when it came to
I
the
I think
American
that's why
dream.
the U.S. government and big pharma and tech companies love depressed people because who's going to get into these pods? Like if you have friends, a community, and a family, why would you be like, I need to live in virtual reality? Whereas if you don't like your life, you're lonely, you're depressed, of course you would get into the pod. You're the first to go.
But they like everyone here. They don't like liberals. I maintain this position.
What do you mean?
That when we're talking about powerful, wealthy elites and people who run corporations,
Yeah.
if you went to the average CEO and said, which group of people would you rather have, rural conservatives or urban liberals, they'd say rural conservatives hands down. Unquestionably.
You think that?
I would say it is fairly obvious for a lot of reasons. The first, think about climate change, big problems, but it's all stemming from cities. Think about all the problems Democrats talk about with overpopulated prisons, cities. Then think about the fact that conservatives don't protest.
No, but they don't
So-
say that they're killing cows in Ireland.
Sure. But it's not absolute. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying is conservatives don't protest. They live on little farms and mind their own business. The amount of pollution produced by the average conservative is substantially lower than produced by the average liberal. So if you look at everything these global elites are talking about and all the problems they're experiencing, it is dense cities, not rural populations. So I always put it like this. Alex, if a person come up to you and said, Alex, have you considered aborting your children? What would you think? Like, do you think that person's your friend or do you think they hate you? How would you consider sterilizing your kid? Just wondering. Like, come on.
Yeah, I would
That's-
think you're a psycho. I mean,
that's not a
honestly.
person who likes you.
Yes.
So when you have these Democrat politicians and people like Bill Gates or whatever being like, I think people should be allowed to remove their children and abortion should be available for all of these people. It's like, I kind of think you hate them and you're trying to have less of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but to be fair, did you see that Lindsey Graham where he was talking to Zelensky and how he was so happy about more dead Russians? Did you
I
see
think so. That was a while
He's
ago,
like,
right?
oh, if that means more, I guess they were talking about giving them
Yeah.
more weapons, and
It's
he
like a
said,
month
if that,
ago.
he said, oh, if that means more dead Russians, good. So he's, I guess, conservative, but it doesn't matter the right side or the left side. They don't care about us. They don't care about their.
This is my point.
Yeah.
This is my point. The way I describe it is you've got a chicken coop. The chickens keep pooping in their water. You go into the chicken coop and you say, hey, you chickens, you stop pooping in your water. The next day you come outside, half the chickens are still pooping in the water. The other half have stopped. Which chickens do you eat?
Yeah, the water pooping ones.
But-
yeah.
The ones that won't listen, that keep polluting and destroying everything. So when when you go to West Virginia and you drive around, what do you find? People have solar panels. People have septic systems, which are very self-regulating in a lot of ways. You got to get them pumped, but if done right, it could be, you might not have to. So the pollution produced in rural areas dissipates. In cities, it concentrates. And then what do you see? The advocacy for, in blue states, things that stop liberals from having kids. So it may be they really don't care about us at all. And all they're saying is, let's enact policies that result in less people, but those policies disproportionately reduce liberal populations.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
I
I
agree on
also
that.
see a disdain from the elites for people who are self-sufficient, and they continue to pass legislation that is contrary to people being self-sufficient. And there's
Like
a
what?
huge you can't even collect rainwater for
that's
God's sake
true.
in many states.
There's
The war
that's
on the
true, but there's a
Second
lot of
Amendment,
reason
the
for
war on-
But
I
those
mean,
are
that
in
wouldn't-
blue cities. Those are not in like West. Like you look at red states and they're doing the opposite of that.
No, even in red states, there's still a lot of restrictions, two-way restrictions that I don't agree with. I think they have a disdain for a
winning.
lot of flyover states and the
we-
people there. I think they do have a disdain for.
We have absolutely won on two-way. The expansion of constitutional carry is unprecedented. The expansion of shall issue.
in recent years, yeah.
I mean, the
Because-
past 30 years, in the 80s, you couldn't get guns. And it was until 2008, the Supreme Court, I think it was Heller versus DC, when they were like, actually, it is an individual right to keep and bear arms, outside of your home and stuff like that. So we're winning on that. All that. In New York, you struggle. In dense blue areas, life is a struggle. They're releasing criminals into the cities. There's an increase in violent crime. People are getting pushed in front of trains. You come out to West Virginia, you got no problems. Crime is down. It's
That's
lower than the
true.
national average.
Haven't seen one crackhead since I've been here from New York.
And they do have drug problems in West Virginia. They do have opiate problems.
Yeah.
But I didn't know this. I actually thought crime was fairly bad here. And then we had, I think it was Riley Moore talking about it. I pulled up the stats. Below average crime in West Virginia, statewide in all jurisdictions, is below average. So if you want to live in New York where they're releasing criminals and justifying it, where they're allowing lewd and lascivious performances, advocating for people to terminate their kids or sterilize their kids, those things all result in the destruction of that population. Meanwhile, in red states, they're doing things that allow the individual to thrive and to flourish.
So
We
then
can't even have pizza.
why?
Oh, I know, right.
Why is this agenda? Is it Agenda 2030? They're trying to create like mega forest. They're trying to like renaturalize a large segments of Earth and not have humans go there. Like no more human footprints in these big forested areas. They want people away from like whatever you would call this, the rural areas, and they want to pack people into these mega cities. I don't know if I'm not speaking for
15-minute
everybody, but what's
Yeah,
that?
but a 15-minute city is not a mega city. It's a small pod city.
Yeah, where everything's 15 minutes away.
Yeah, where everyone's
The
like
hospital, your grocery store, everything you would need.
a 15-minute city is not going to be 20 million people in one circular city. It's going to be small pod cities all over the place.
All
But
connected
the reason
by
why that's
high-speed
bad too
rail.
is it's easier to shut down when it's a small city.
Well,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't trust these people at all anyway. So it doesn't really matter what. To wrap it all up with a nice little bow.
I'm
Who
loving
cares
the
who
rural
they like
life.
and don't like? They do bad things.
Dude, rural life is nice. I'm really starting to love it.
Well, it's funny because everybody talks about Texas. I remember, Ian, you were just like, oh, Texas and Joe Rogan, people are moving there. And the reason why Texas is good is because it's for fat people. There's like a CVS on every corner. There's a McDonald's. And so it's like, yeah, I love the rural life too, but I kind of like that I can just like go to the Walmart or buy my tuck-friendly bathing suit at Target and my Big Mac.
You look good
Okay,
in
guys.
that.
all within
I-
half a mile.
I want to pull up this tweet from the DeSantis War Room, and okay, let's pull this up. My personal opinion is slightly negative on this tweet. I think it is cringe. I think DeSantis' team is correct, and they deserve. So on the political point of this video, they deserve the credit. Their criticisms are fair, but man, you guys ready for this?
Let's go.
They tweeted to
Yeah.
wrap up Pride Month. Let's hear from the politician who did more than any other Republican to celebrate it. Here we go. Oh, can you fix the audio?
Yeah, try it now.
Nope. Wait, there we go.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
If Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses.
That is correct.
In the future, can transgender women compete in Miss Universe?
Yes.
Make America great again.
Man, it's growing on me.
I cannot think of anything more horrifying.
It really has shut down drag.
Just produced some of the harshest, most draconian laws that literally threaten trans existence.
Congratulations, Ron DeSantis. Mission accomplished. You win.
I can't do it. Look. Okay, I like the music. I think the point being made is correct. I am not as critical as Trump for, in the past when he held up the LGBT flag and all that stuff. He is not talking about what we are currently seeing. He was talking about other things. There are many people that we are friends of and fans of that previously did align themselves with the traditional LGBT stuff. And Trump, I believe, was correct to be like, hey, those people are good. They're going to vote for us. What we're seeing now is very, very different. To smear him over that, I think is wrong. But Trump absolutely was not as harsh. Ron DeSantis is absolutely going after this in the culture war more so than any other leader. But the American Psycho bit and the Chad meme stuff, it's like if they took that out and just showed clips of DeSantis like pointing to the press and like answering questions with news articles, I'd give it an A+. The weird meme things is too much like, I'm with it, kids.
I like it. I have a preference for Trump over DeSantis, but I like this video. I think it's good.
You like it?
It's catchy, yeah.
I like it over the top.
Yeah.
The music works for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
They only need to show Brad Pitt's face once. They showed it twice.
And
The
American Psycho.
Psycho's great.
Yeah, the second shot of the
That's
Psycho.
so good.
Is he trying to align himself with being a psychopath?
No, it's
And,
very
like,
Gen Z.
Well,
So the Patrick Bateman, the American Psycho memes, those are big on TikTok and with Gen Z. So it's very Gen
I'm just not.
Z.
I guess I'm just.
You're the
not
one that
hip
stuck with it.
But that's my point. Like Ron DeSantis is older than me. Why is he like trying to? Like, are the kids going to be like, wow, he's so cool? He's
But
like
they're not
me.
going to vote for him anyways. Statistically, Gen Z just doesn't turn out. But
Are you Gen Z?
yeah,
You're going to vote for him, right?
no,
Would you vote for him if it wasn't Trump?
no,
Really?
no.
Who's on your
Yeah, I
Who's
don't
your
know if I
top
would
contenders right now?
I don't know. To be honest, Trump would be at the. I have a preference for Trump at the moment.
What about Vivek
I do like Vivek a lot.
and Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
RFK I love because he challenges the system, but he's still anti-2A.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, but I will support him just because I think he has an important message.
He still is a Democrat, so if you leave
Yeah.
Republican, you're not gonna like him.
Yeah.
I was this Trump stuff. I didn't know that Trump was all in on the inviting. See, this is the thing. If someone had asked him, "Are you okay with letting a trans political movement indoctrinate children into becoming trans and having sex surgeries?" He probably would have been like, "No."
Like, what are you talking about? Of course, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I don't
That
think
wasn't.
he's-
This is stuff from back in 2015.
Yeah, I
That's
don't-
8 years.
he didn't
ago.
see it
Yeah.
coming.
I mean, remember, whenever he debated Palin, Joe Biden was against gay marriage. Everyone's opinion shifts over time, especially if their political cohorts change their opinion. And I think we have to give Trump a lot of credit. When he was talking in 2015, no one knew exactly where it was going. Some people could have predicted that we'd be selling gender-affirming bathing suits to children in Target, but not a lot of people
Tuck
believe
friendly.
that.
Well, to-
Tuck friendly.
Those are for adults. It's just gender-affirming when it's for children.
To what Ian said, it's like, listen, I love the pride flag because now I know if I'm on like a street, I know which are the gay bars. Oh, that's a gay bar. So I think, that's good that we should have pride flags. I'm not like against, canceling the pride flag. But what does a pride flag symbolize? The only difference between me and a gay person or a straight person and a gay person is their sexual preference. So this flag basically indicates your sexual preference. Why does that need to be in a school? Like
Why
that's
does that need to be on a flag?
Well, I mean, listen. You want to have that on a flag? Go ahead. You want to do butt stuff and have a flag for it? Actually, go ahead. But why are we going to put it in the kindergarten classroom? That's where, and I think even though they're kind of trolling Trump, I think Trump, like you said, would probably have that same feeling. Like, obviously, gay people exist, but I just don't want you grooming my children.
Yeah,
I also think just both the Trump and DeSantis teams on social media, especially on Twitter, are really cringe. It's just getting too much.
The internet is
I
so
think they
cringe
just
right
need
now
to-
with
they
the
need
Trump
to
and
calm
DeSantis.
down.
Dude, I just
stop.
look, if this really worked for Gen Z, I stand corrected. If the kids on TikTok are watching this video and now they're inspired to vote for DeSantis,
They're not going to.
all right.
But I
just
like
look
the
at it like
production value of it. I think it's good.
I don't think it was made by them either. They're reposting
No.
Proud Elephant. I'm just like, it's getting, I don't know, man.
It's cringe.
Yeah.
It's cringe on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Both
I think
the
it's
Trump and DeSantis influencers.
what's going to happen though is the Trump influencers and the DeSantis influencers are just going to kill themselves, and we're going to have the same outcome of 2020 probably.
They're gonna nuke each other in the
Yeah.
primary, then refuse to vote for each other.
That's what we
Yes.
need is the Trump DeSantis get along meme
Of
where
course.
they grab
No.
arms and they're
I
like
think
together
they
strong.
should just fight in the Coliseum.
Oh, that would be
Winner
good.
gets the nomination.
That would be good.
I won't
That'd
vote for
be awesome.
DeSantis if he apologizes, has his team apologize and take down that deepfake video, then he's back on my list. But it's like at this point we're over a month out. I don't know if there's
They
any,
He
just
probably
want it
didn't
to
even
go
approve
away.
that.
Doesn't
video.
matter.
Yeah, I guess.
how hard would it be for him to be like
Take
right
that
away?
down, yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
approve of that. Take it down.
Yeah, you're right.
That was wrong. Sorry about that, guys. That's all. 5 seconds. If he put out a video, and if they just delete, here's the thing: if they delete the tweet and then put up a tweet saying we deleted that video because it had deepfakes, Ron was unhappy that it was put up without his approval. It is no longer
Is your
live.
issue
Then I
with
would be like, okay, cool.
Is your issue with the dishonesty of the deepfake?
So, for almost a decade, the media has been lying about every single thing Trump has ever done. And it's more than lying. It's one thing when you have these political videos that are like, did you know that, John Smith voted for the Hating Puppies Act? Or like, Alex Stein voted against the We Love Puppies bill. Why doesn't he love puppies? It's like, oh, that bill had nothing to do with puppies. Like, we get it. It's manipulation. That's annoying. It's bad. And everybody hates it. With Trump, it was even worse. They were editing videos out of context, lying about his quotes. And I spend almost the better part of a decade constantly talking to everybody saying, that's not true. That never happened. And it is annoying. And I hate having to do it all the time. And then Ron DeSantis comes out with a video, his team did, where they made deep fake images of Trump hugging and kissing Fauci. And so now it's just like all of that stuff I'm angry about, they just decided to one-up it. So I'm pissed.
Yeah. I think it's bad precedent too, right? Like we're going to have a Republican candidate attack another Republican candidate by fabricating something. Like that would never work for journalism. Why are we allowing it to stand for social media? Because otherwise we just open the door for it.
I would be a hypocrite if I said, it's no big deal. Because I've been complaining about the media lying about Trump nonstop the entire time. And don't get me wrong, people are like, yeah, but Trump lies about DeSantis. And I'm like, and he should not. But he did not create fake images to smear Ron DeSantis.
Well, he kind of did. And again, I have a
What did he
preference.
do?
I have a preference for Trump. Again,
What did Trump create?
He didn't. No, he didn't do an AI. But they were posting photos of the empty DeSantis booth, saying nobody came by all day. But that wasn't the case, and they ended up getting community noted on it. It's all dishonest, and I think on both
And
sides
it's bad.
it's wrong.
And I hate all of it.
Yeah.
And the Trump camp shouldn't be posting misleading things. But it is substantially worse to have someone go onto a computer and create several different iterations of fake images to trick people into thinking a thing happened that didn't happen.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, and I'm not trying to be contrarian or white knight for DeSantis, I love Donald Trump. But Donald Trump was besties with Fauci in a way. I mean, I know those are artistic.
I agree with the
representation.
point.
I know. I mean, they were kind of even though they used a fake artificial photo, they were making a true point. So it's kind of
But
this,
then
I know.
what-
I'm just saying that to be contrarian.
If
but,
they didn't do that, the video's fine.
yeah.
But instead, they do it. I say, hey, that's not cool. You should take that down. And then they attack me for it. And I'm just like, okay, these people are disingenuous. Like, how about you prove that you're better than all of the BS we've been dealing with? Is Trump posting out of context clips or whatever, like every other politician always does, and we all despise it? Okay, that's really bad, and I'm annoyed by it. He's as bad as all the rest of them. Did DeSantis just do worse than all of them? Great. All the politicians are at baseline lying pieces of trash, and DeSantis is 1 degree below them. That's where I'm at. So, all they got to do is delete the tweet and be like, we shouldn't have done that. And I'll say, okay, guys. Because I got to, look, this video, they're right. Ron DeSantis has really done a lot as it pertains to the culture war and in protecting kids and putting up barriers to protect the cultural values and the moral values that we do have. And that's a winning position.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. It's better than Trump. He's got a lot to go after Trump on in terms of the primary. But they're certainly not doing themselves any favor with this current press team. They seem to be just digging a hole for him.
No, and he's a young man. I don't know why he's making this push now. I think I guess maybe sees blood in the water, maybe like a shark right now. I think he sees Trump as vulnerable.
Do you see Candace Owens tweeted that he's done?
Who, DeSantis?
Candace Owens said that he's done. Let me pull that tweet up.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to stop trying to investigate Trump. I mean, I don't think
They're
this.
not.
I mean, it's never going to stop. They're going to find something. I mean, it's going to a never-ending cavalcade of charges to try to stop him from running. And I think it's going to win. I think that there will be a time, and I know Trump says he'll fight till the end or whatever, but I think there'll be a time where they'll say, "Hey, And I mean, this is just pure speculation, where maybe he does get in trouble for a crime, and I think they're kind of laying the groundwork for Biden to get in trouble for a similar crime, and then maybe they both get pardoned.
So Candace Owens tweeted, sorry to the say, I don't know. Sorry to the say it, but the DeSantis campaign was dead on arrival, and it's time to admit it. Tons of mistakes. Needed to be more upfront about his intention to run. Doesn't come across as honest, and he's boring. You can say it shouldn't matter, but it does. He also needed someone more like Kayleigh McEnany rather than petty Christina Pushaw running comms. The influencers that are still cheerleading for him are those that recently moved to his state and want to reap the benefits for standing firm beside him through his inevitable loss. I'm not knocking the influencer hustle, just calling it as I see it. They know he can't win either. Also, their weird takeover of their community notes gives people a fact checker vibe. Sometimes the notes they add don't actually debunk anything, getting very Snopes-like. Jenna Ellis says, Candace probably consulted President Jeb for this spot on take. Candace says, when you authored this tweet, did you think it was funny, clever, interesting? Generally interested in your thought process on this. Honestly, ChatGPT could have come up with something better. Highlighting that one just because, like, is this it? Consulting with Jeb to criticize the DeSantis campaign? His polls are tanking.
I'm just tired
he's
of
just
the
on the
infighting. Like, I don't understand why this is the conversation we're having. I think it's a legitimate conversation to have. Should we allow or permit faked images to be used in any sort of campaign setting? I think that's a good question for journalism and for integrity. But generally, like, I am tired of Republicans fighting each other. Like, just come up with something interesting to say about policy. That's actually all I need right now. I don't care if your staffs hate each other. I don't care about any of that. Because what I want is someone... The person who is leading policy conversation for me right now is RFK Jr. Yep. And he's a Democrat. So what are the Republicans doing?
Yeah, but
it's a waste of energy.
I
his
would
gun
agree.
and war stances.
I would agree.
Sure, but he's a Democrat. He's not going to have the
Did
same
you watch
stance
how
I am.
Alex and I both had to preface? We're like, I swear we love Trump.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, because it's terrifying. They become very culty, especially on the influencer side and online. They're a little rabid.
I have no worries about Trump supporters. The DeSantis people are ravenous.
I think they both are. I've gotten it from both sides because I get accused of being paid by both of them. I think they're both pretty vile.
Certainly, Trump has his pit bulls that are, you know, yelling. But like, when I don't know how to describe it. We've been doing this for a long time. I've been critical of Trump on a lot of things. People got really mad at me when I said that he lost in 2020, and they were like, "You're crazy." And then, sure enough, Trump was never inaugurated. Like, they're like, in March it'll come," but it is nowhere near as bad. Like, having people be like, "Yeah, Tim's an idiot, but it's okay because I say these things," versus the DeSantis people like, "Yo, I put out a tweet about Trump doing something wrong," and I'll get Trump supporters being like, "Yeah, I hear you." I put out a tweet about DeSantis, and I get 100 tweets instantly of people insulting me. And I'm just like, yo, dude, all you're doing is making it worse for DeSantis. Maybe that's their intention.
Well,
They're just trying to hurt him.
This is why I don't think the fighting will ever stop, because, I mean, politics is just Hollywood for ugly people. So they're going to continue to create a way to fight with each other to get more clout or get more clicks. I mean, that's why they always put in these fake bills that are never going to get passed. So I think that's, like, to be honest, DeSantis probably loves this fighting. I mean, I'm just, once again, speculating that, because now we just talk about him. Now Ron DeSantis is on the same level as Trump. So kind of helps to start.
But he's not. That's the point we're making. Is his polls have been cut in half.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying he has the cachet that he's a threat to Trump. Trump does seem a little threatened.
Here's what I think. I think Ron could be the front runner right now if he had a good press team. Despite the fact that he was hemming and hawing about whether he was going to run, his policy says enough. Like what he's done in Florida, like he is probably the best politician in terms of leadership that we have in this country. And then his press team comes out and just keeps setting fires over and over again. And I for whatever reason, they aren't fixing it and they think it's good. I don't get it.
I would agree with that.
Well, Veep, the show Veep on HBO, that's like a documentary. Like, really, I'm telling you, the people that are working these staffs, even the high people that I meet with, you know, that run Marjorie's or any politician, these people aren't that exceptional, Tim. They're all just like normal people. I mean, I'm just being honest. So they're just trying to figure it out. This is probably Christina's first presidential campaign, so they don't have any idea what the hell they're doing.
I mean, I don't think I don't think Michael Malice would take a job doing something like that with them. He would with the Libertarian Party or whatever, but they need a Michael Malice.
Yeah, Michael would be good for them, yeah.
Like, I don't think he would work with DeSantis. Maybe if the price is right, whatever. I don't, you know, Michael being an anarchist, he might ideologically say, I'm not interested. But for the Libertarian Party, that was the thing, that he was going to be the press secretary. Someone like Michael Malice is so culturally, historically, and press savvy. If the DeSantis campaign were to hire someone of his caliber right when they started, he'd be the front runner, no question.
Yes.
And he's snarky. He's good. I mean, Malice would be a great mouthpiece.
And
I
he's a
agree.
good person.
Right.
Michael's a really good person.
Apparently a great actor too. He just did an episode of Normal World with.
Oh yeah, I
Dave
saw that
Landau.
clip.
That
Yes,
was
we
hot.
were on
Nice
that.
job,
Everybody,
Michael.
check it out. Actually, do not check out Normal World. Go to Primetime with Alex Stein right now. Do not subscribe to any other Blaze show. Do not mention any other shows while I'm on Timcast. Do not mention.
Get your super chats in.
Get your super chats in.
Tim, would you consider ever getting into politics at this stage?
No.
Because I kind of
Do you have any idea how much power I would have to give up?
Do you have the power I have?
That's a Lex.
Freedom.
Hold on. That's a Lex Luthor quote. I was.
Well, it's kind of, I'm the same way. We go down to Congress, we do these shows, and I'm like, I can feel the invite. Like they would be happy to have newscasters come and support the campaigns, but like, I don't want it. I don't want that. I don't want to go take the title. I don't need the title to change the world.
It's also very disheartening getting involved in politics on the campaign level, because you realize that a lot of these people are just kind of circle jerking each other, and that's why nothing gets done.
And by that you mean it's a circle of jerks who are patting each other on the back.
Yes.
Changing
Nothing
directional
sexual,
momentum.
Nothing,
Yes.
yes.
It's just a bunch of guys all patting each other on the
Supporting
back.
each other
They're
and
You mean
being
it's like
there.
a fraternity? Because it kind of felt like college when I was at Congress, like a bunch of.
Yeah, isn't it funny?
Yeah.
It's like, it's seriously, when you're walking through the halls of Congress, it's like college dormy.
Yeah.
No, it really is. Like you walk
So
through
cringe.
Longfellow Hall, and those halls it's very weird though, because I actually did an official tour, and I don't know if I said this last time, but as soon as you go on the official Capitol tour, they bring you in for like this 20-minute video that gives you the history, and like within the first minute, it's like, these are hallowed grounds that was built on the backs of slaves. like literally, immediately they make you feel so guilty. But then after I watch that video, then I'm walking around everywhere and in DC for the rest of my trip. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is built by a slave. This is built by a slave. It is. It has this kind of creepy old college weird feel.
The funny thing
too.
about, what is it, like, what building were you mentioning?
Longfellow is like,
Longfellow.
yeah, I think it's Longfellow.
There's like a little market where you go in and you can grab stuff and then like scan a card or whatever to pay for it. There's like a Subway and a Baskin Robbins. Yo, it like walking around, and then it's like the rival team is it like across the hall, and they're like, that's where AOC is, and I'm just like, this is so childish.
Well, the George Santos, I remember going there, and there was literally people camping out. CNN, when he first got in there, camping out in those hallways, and just the vibes in there. It's just very weird.
I love him.
You do?
love
You
George
do
Santos.
stand. I like Vish.
I
His,
stand George
I like
Santos.
Vish, the guy who runs his
Vish
deal.
is awesome.
What's
It's
George
nice.
Santos all about?
He's like our Anna Delvey.
I think he's just kind of like.
I love him.
Didn't he say he was?
I love
didn't he
him.
say something like, I didn't say I was Jewish. I said I was Jewish.
Well, I'm kind of Jewish.
He's
I kind of
incredible.
vibe with that too. But no, there's this weird thing now where the conservative movement is the counterculture. So George Santos being like an openly gay man that is like, he's worn drag, but he's like.
Did he really though? He denied it, didn't he?
Well, who cares? Who cares? I've worn a dress, whatever. But my point is, it's like he's the counterculture because he's like the gay guy that's not for the gay agenda. So that's like
He
where
did-
I think that's why he's successful or fits in because he's like
Yeah,
that.
well,
He
and
did
all-
a review of the White House Correspondents' Center fashion on Twitter. And
Yeah,
that
see,
was
that's
the best.
funny,
It was
yeah.
funny. It was fresh. Like apparently he's interested in it, and it's like
Yeah.
something that conservatives sometimes need because they have this reputation for being too buttoned up.
His tweets are great too, but if you're gonna slam George Santos for being a liar, why don't you get the rest of them in Congress?
Yeah, they all lie. Yeah,
I want to jump to this story here because we'll talk about cultural stuff. This one is it's terrifying and funny at the same time. The Post Millennial. Pornhub pulls out of Virginia over age verification law. Whoa. What? Wait, what? Are you hold on there a minute. They blocked users in Virginia from accessing the site in reaction to the state's new age verification law. According to 8 News, the new law, which takes effect July 1st, would require porn websites to verify users in the state are at least 18 before they can access adult content. So instead of, verifying age, they were just like, well, then you don't get any porn.
They did the same
Like-
thing in Utah in early May.
They are so desperate to show children adult images, they boycott the state when they can't.
Well, I don't think that's it. I just because they don't want to deal with any of the legal ramifications and having to certify all these people because then now they're liable if they show kids porn. So I just think that's why they do it because the law's even in
Right.
place.
So what you're saying is Pornhub has no problem operating in the state if it means children can access their content.
Well, yeah, I mean, they want kids to access it, but they don't want to have the risk, the legality.
It's too much work for Pornhub to have to make sure kids aren't using their services.
That's fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that statement. Yes, it's too much. It's not cost beneficial for them.
In May, when they blocked Utah, because Utah made the same, you have to be able to show your driver's license or verify ID. They're like, this is crazy. Having to show your ID every time you come to Pornhub is just not going to protect children. Like, that was their actual complaint. They said that this is a ridiculous way to handle it.
So,
and
like,
won't
strip
solve
clubs
anything.
that don't check IDs?
Yeah, but Tim, we're joking about this, but the United Nations came out and saying they want to get rid of age of consent laws. So it's like they really do want to show kids adult content. And then when we talk about Pornhub, like, you know, they say it's so crazy for a kid under 18 to look at porn, which I agree with, but like a 14-year-old can get a mastectomy. I mean, you know, it's so weird.
Yeah.
18-year-old, you know, 17-year-old can't get a tattoo, but they can get gender reassignment surgery.
They're chanting that they're coming for our children.
Yes.
And then when people are like, hey, did you hear what they said? They're like, no, they didn't say it. They didn't say it. But, you know, they do say it all the time.
We say it every year.
Yeah,
they
it's our chant we always say.
It was just a joke.
No, we say it all the time, but this one time we actually didn't say it. We just say it all the time.
Yeah.
Another weird twist in the Pornhub thing is that Louisiana also has an age verification law, but Pornhub never blocked them and did comply.
What?
Really?
Did they?
Yeah, and I don't know why that is. They just said, okay, Louisiana.
It's because they're so backwards they wouldn't be able to prosecute it or something. Louisiana, I went to LSU. It is the wildest place. Have you guys spent any time in Louisiana? Because it was the last state to change its drinking age laws from 18 to 21, they were like the last state to get federal funding for the roads. So the roads and highways suck in New Orleans.
Good for them for holding out, though.
Yeah, that's Louisiana. It's like this thing. It's called Lagnappy. It's like a little extra. Like they have this very nice kind of party atmosphere, but because of that, the city's like run like trash, you know, or the whole state's just not run very well.
It's crazy to me. We talked about this this past week. There are tons of things you can't do in public that you can do online in public, which makes no sense. There are tons of things we wouldn't allow someone to do at a brick and mortar establishment. We allow them to do online, which makes no sense.
I think it's because
you can't walk into an adult bookstore. You get your ID checked. You can't walk into a sex shop. You get your ID checked. Online, you can. No ID check. That's insane to me. It should be that every porn website or adult website requires registration and verification before you can use it. Sorry, that's just the way it works.
Well, there's an interesting discussion going on about Twitter in that regard too, because you can create a Twitter account at 13, but they also allow porn on
They
Twitter.
should.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
Hold on. I think Twitter. So here's the technicality. It's not so much Twitter's business. If you go out into Times Square with a big photograph of porn, you'll get arrested. So if you post porn on Twitter where children can see it,
it's legal.
It should be the same crime. I don't understand the argument for, yes, I understand you can't play videos of porn out in the public, but I should be able to play it in the public on Twitter where children can see it. No, none of that.
What do you think the remedy for that is?
Police enforcing the law?
Well, how would they enforce that?
They would see an account post the illegal content, then subpoena the company and say, under this law, it's illegal, and a judge orders you to hand over the data of the individual. Then they would go get a warrant. Like they would go to the house and investigate, and like any other criminal case. Like, let me ask you a question. A guy wearing a ski mask is handing out porn mags to people in Times Square and holding a big. How do they stop that? They
but
go
that's
there.
I mean, it's
and arrest
rampant
him.
on Twitter, though. I mean, it's like
Because-
there's a lot of replies.
But
to
hold on.
OnlyFans girls.
Shoplifting is rampant in San Francisco because we're letting it be. Just because we never enforce the law doesn't mean we just don't do it anymore. We have to be like, yo, we got to stop it.
We need more resources for cyber crimes, though.
I was going to say, do you think we need to
really
expand cybercrime resources? Because what you're saying with
Absolutely.
shoplifting, you send a police officer in person. Like, do we have a gap in law enforcement where they are
Absolutely.
not trained to
It's
adequately
not,
I'll tell you-
it's
I'll
not,
tell
it's
you a
not, it's
personal
not, it's
story.
not that, because many of these people post their own videos to the public under their own names. It's that law enforcement and government can't keep up with technology.
Yes.
So, like, they don't have a big enough presence on Twitter to catch these
No,
things?
it's that if you go to a cop and say, if you go to a police officer, a police station right now, and say, there's a guy who lives a block away from here who is posting, he was showing pornographic images in public and children could see it. That cop's gonna go, whoa, okay, let's write this down. Where was it? It was on Twitter. He'll go, oh, I don't care about that.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
You're like, but
Yes.
what's the difference?
Well, and I think
Yeah, but-
I told you this before, Tim, but I had a serious stalker who was stalking me through Twitter, YouTube,
That was
harassing
me. That was me. Yeah.
No, he was not. He wasn't funny. But it was a pretty serious stalker, and the FBI ended up getting involved. And I had an agent from the cybercrimes unit who called me, and he said, "Have you tried calling Twitter and YouTube?" And I said, "With all due respect, sir, if you think I could call Twitter or YouTube, you should not be working in cybercrimes." And this was a federal agent, FBI agent who said that.
You can't take a big poster of two adults having sex and put it in your front window for everyone in the world to walk past and see. You can't do that.
Yeah, but Tim,
if you want to legalize it, by all means, go to legislature and have them all vote to make that legal.
Yeah, but my buddy Cassidy Campbell, another guy, Alex Rosen, they do these predator poaching videos, Tim, and I'm sure you've seen those, where they'll go, in some cities the cops do get involved, but they'll show cops a whole cachet of these are text messages. This guy thinks he's messaging a 13-year-old kid, and the cops, they have the evidence. They'll say, oh, we can't touch it. So I think it comes down to...
Yeah, back to blue, baby.
Yeah, I know. It comes down to, are they actually going to follow through?
They'll give you a ticket for having a busted headlight that you didn't know about. You're a day past your plate registration. You'll get a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be speeding. You'll be under the limit, but they'll pull you over and give you a speeding ticket anyway. These stories are rampant. Everybody has some ridiculous story. I knew a dude who turned right at a red light, and they mailed him a blowing a red light ticket.
Yeah, because he didn't stop long enough.
No, he did.
Oh.
They said it thought he ran the light outright.
Yeah.
They don't care. When it comes to petty crime, they'll enforce it with a hammer. When it comes to COVID restrictions, they will lock you up. Hair salon owner, right to jail.
Mm-hmm.
You own a cafe in Minnesota and you open up for a couple of days. They hunted her down in Iowa to make sure, and this is the sheriff, to make sure she suffered. Attilis Gym, you want to open your gym so people can exercise? Because you disagree with the edict issued by the governor, the cops will show up with smiles on their faces and arrest you. But heaven forbid any one of these cops, when they're standing outside of a club that is doing a sex show that they've invited children to, the cops in Texas said, sorry, we won't do anything about that.
I think it's the difference of putting up like porn in a front window facing out onto the street and putting it on Twitter is that on Twitter it's parentally supervised. Like
What?
But
a
it's not
kid
really.
can't get internet without
That's not true.
buying a router and having or buying a phone.
That's not true at all.
To kind of agree with what Ian's saying, though, there is a difference between like posting a picture and then sending that posted picture directly to somebody, if that makes sense. Like,
I'm not talking about that. I'm saying if you post a tweet of porn, as many people do, I view that the exact same as taking a big sign with a porn picture and sticking it in the ground outside.
But it's
anyone can
definitely-
see it. A
No,
kid
you need
in
internet.
a kid in a school library.
Well, then it's the school should be,
An argument over resources and an argument for public access.
Oh, yeah, it is.
No,
It could-
no,
yeah, it
no,
can
it
be.
isn't. No, it's not.
What? If it costs $100 to get into something, then it's not public.
Okay, a kid who doesn't have bus fare is not the issue. If you post it in public, you are granting access to public. That's the issue. Just because some kids can't get on Twitter doesn't mean it's not public. It is public.
That's the argument.
And children, it's not.
I don't know if it legally you would consider internet public.
It is.
It is.
It's literally and legally considered public. It is legally
It's like
public.
a quasi, for sure, like
they've
Google.
already ruled in courts.
If it's public, then how come a guy can shut it down? Like
there's
you can't
things,
shut down a public park.
Yes,
I mean,
you can.
need the government to do that.
So there's things
but Elon
called-
can shut down Twitter. So, how's it public?
So slow down there, Ian. First, there's things called privately owned public spaces, where in New York, for instance, that's what Occupy
Like
Wall Street was all
Zuccotti,
about.
yeah, Zuccotti Park.
And Chase Plaza and Deutsche Bank, privately owned but public, and so there were certain restrictions on what they could and couldn't do. And so once it got to a certain point of the protest, they couldn't shut it down. Chase was smart and shut down their plaza instantly before any of that could happen. Twitter is privately owned, but it's already been ruled a public space. Hence, politicians, when they tweet, they create public forums. They cannot block people. Courts have already stated that. Now, I think this...
I'm suing AOC.
over this. Because she blocked you, and it's a public space. She doesn't have a right to do it. It is in public, period. It's not up for debate. It is. The courts have already said it. So the issue is law enforcement knows that adults are publishing images in public that children can get access to, but for some reason, they don't care. They won't go anywhere near it. Our society is in decay. Go back 30 years and watch what happens if a guy would print out a big poster with people having sex on it and stand in public in the town center waving it at people. He would like bad things would happen to that guy.
The age of
and he
data,
would get arrested.
Data proliferation. We haven't been able to keep up. You can make 100 million copies of something now, but we don't have 100 million copies of the cop. We only have one cop. So you need AI. I think we need artificial intelligence to police social media.
No.
I mean, you give me a better option.
No.
I'd love to hear a better
AI
one.
is terrible at distinguishing things, right? Didn't we talk about
it's
this earlier?
it's better than no people. Like 0 people is even worse than an AI.
But that's what
the
happened.
issue is not that we need a better system for it. The issue is quite simply the culture. Police will see it and go, meh.
It's like, how do you find out who did it even? Because a lot of the accounts are fake or...
So how about this?
You can't, if you sue Twitter, then you destroy Twitter.
How about this? In all instances where an individual under their given name and photograph publish it, then the investigation is quite minimal. You then go knock on their door and say, Mr. Smith, did you publish this image to your Twitter account? You did? Place your hands behind your back. You are under arrest for posting lewd images in public. Did you know that in many states, if you have a gun and that gun is in a position where a child could get access to it, that is a felony?
Yeah.
So, like, if it's in your room, locked in the closet, oh, hold on there a minute. It's got to be in a safe. They have these child protection laws.
What about...
West Virginia, we already talked about it. Open lewdness is illegal.
What about retweeting porn? Should those people also be arrested?
That's an interesting question that will be up for...
That is kind of a gray area.
No, well, that's that requires precedent, and that's a normal process in the United States law. A police officer will say, you published this image to your, 10,000 followers. They'll say, no, I retweeted something that was already public. Then the argument becomes, a guy was handing out pictures of porn in public, handed you one, and you held it up in the air for everyone to see.
This is the thing,
you are now in trouble.
With like when data is leaked, like government leaks and things, and then people retweet the data, like are they committing the same felony that the person...
No. That's a whistleblower.
Because
they're basically holding up the illegal...
No, because it's not illegal to share it, it's illegal to steal it. So when it comes to like the Pentagon Papers, the question is, was it illegally obtained? Well, there's whistleblower protections. The news media committed no crime by publishing that information.
Tim, I want to make a point about the culture, though, and it's like this is a more simple analogy, not just the fact that everybody's trying to basically give kids gender reassignment surgery and make everybody get an abortion, but just look at the change of our architecture from the 60s and 70s.
Brutalism.
I mean,
I hate it.
It's this weird postmodern era of just crap. Like even the newest baseball stadium in Texas, we had the ballpark in Arlington built in like 99. It's just beautiful, grandiose, epic ballpark. The newest one they built, I forget, it's called Globe Life, or I forget what it's even called. And it looks like a Costco. I'm just saying, in the past 20 years, we've gone down when it comes to architecture. Just imagine
brutalism.
Yeah,
everything's a white box,
and that's crap. That's terrible for society.
There's no art. But you know what it is? I was talking to Seamus about it. He was saying that before the internet and print, this was the art medium. To see the great works was the buildings we would produce. Then as we move into newspaper and radio, art and creativity moved into those spaces, buildings started becoming less and less relevant in the discussion.
I think that's part of it. I think it's also there's a lot of planned obsolescence that goes into that.
Yeah, they want
I
stuff to
feel like
fail.
it's like to make everyone feel like there's no regional significance, right? Like if you're in New York City, you can tell by the buildings, and they're supposed to be different than the buildings that are in San Francisco, which are supposed to be different than the buildings that you might find in like a major city in Montana. Whereas now you get major corporations that put up the same blank building everywhere. So there's no sense of identity, and therefore you can't cultivate any sort of regional pride.
And it's like when people build new houses, there's always problems, but houses built in like the 70s and 60s just last the test of time, it seems like. So there's something, there's like a degradation of the carpenters. Like look at this, the gargoyles and stuff outside of these buildings in New York City. They can't even repair them. We don't even have the same people, the stonemasons, that can even do that
Plastering,
anymore.
which used to be like the big thing. There are very few true plastering crews left.
On the issue of porn, let me give you guys a very simple scenario. If you want to post it to your Twitter account, your account has to be age verification locked. That's it. So you will make a post, and if you publish it to people, now you're in trouble. If open to the public for children. If you want to do adult content to make it safe and legal, you put a age restriction filter on it. And then if a kid comes across it, they can't access it. And the only people who can are those who verify their accounts on Twitter. I'll give you a real world example. You walk into a 7-Eleven back when I was a kid, and there were some magazines. But those magazines were in black plastic. You could not see the magazine. You could see the top that it would say the name Hustler or Playboy, but you'd like, oh man, you couldn't see it. And kids weren't able to buy it. They'd be like, I can't sell you that. So you couldn't actually open it up. It was wrapped. You couldn't see. You could only see it was a product. So it was in public, but not displaying anything for kids to see.
What about if someone's sitting on a park bench with a Playboy reading it, and there's a kid like 100 feet away walking by?
Typically then a cop will be like, hey, buddy, come on. There are kids around here. Put that away.
But if the kid walks up behind the guy and looks at the magazine over his shoulder,
then typically someone will say, hey, buddy, put that thing away.
And
Kids can see
ultimately,
it.
the kid would be the one that made the mistake in that.
Now you're talking about simple judicial discretion.
I guess the question is it illegal to have a Playboy open in a public park?
That the question of legality is the interpretation of the judge. A cop could say disorderly conduct for anything you do. You can fart in public and a cop can be like, that's disorderly, you're under arrest, and tell it to a judge. The judge will then determine whether or not you actually violated that statute.
I know I got a felony for farting in public. So
it was gross fart.
It was really bad. A lot of poop in that fart.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah, it was a really bad situation.
Like a horizontal fire.
Yeah, I went to jail for a long time. I just got out.
Burst.
No, but I don't know.
Just got out.
When it comes to the porn stuff on the internet, I think that's kind of the most cancerous thing of the reason why kids are so sexualized, and I think that's why we have a lot of this
and depressed.
Well, not just the depression, but the sexual confusion, because you look at like a trans person, you might be attracted to the boobs, but then you see a penis because they go to a drag queen story time at a young age. So I'm just saying we're over sexualizing our children, and that's having an effect that we can't quantify or whatever. We can't figure out what the hell that's going to equal because we don't have any past generations that were exposed to all this pornography.
We kind of do. It's creating sexual dysfunction. We're seeing that erectile dysfunction is skyrocketing among young men.
And testosterone's way down.
That could be plastics. I think that's probably our diet and stuff like that. But kids, human beings were never meant to be exposed to this level of information, period. Okay, but I understand information access is just a thing that we're going to have to learn to adapt with. Children being able to get instant access to porn on Twitter, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. That was an oversight of the 2000 that people didn't realize when the internet arrived, that they should be protecting kids' brains from it.
Well, Ted Bundy said they should. Ted Bundy said if you don't want your kids to end up like me, keep them away from porn.
I think the way Twitter should work is the moment your account posts porn available to the public, you get an instant age verification.
That's where I'm talking about AI, that you would use AI for something like that. But it could fail. But I think you could use AI to do that, because if a person's like, oops, I forgot, you don't want to throw them in prison for that necessarily.
I forgot what?
I forgot to post 18 age verification on mine, and you're like,
whoops,
maybe they
I accidentally threw a Playboy in front of a bunch of kids. Like what?
Like that's when you bring up like wanting to read a pornographic magazine in a park. For me, it's like, but why do you want to? If you're going to a park where presumably our children, whoever, like, why? Why are you doing that?
Fresh air.
But the point I was making earlier is there is a reasonableness to enforcing the law that is upon the discretion of the officer. It is unreasonable, in my opinion, that officers do not arrest the people who are engaging in these crimes. Completely unreasonable. It is unreasonable, in my opinion. So if you get pulled over and it's an honest mistake and you weren't speeding that much, the reasonable thing to do is a warning. And cops do that a lot. That's police discretion, and many officers do a good job. I have had some negative encounters with police officers, as most people have, where one time I was not speeding, I got a ticket, cop told me to basically screw myself, and that got my license suspended. That bothers me. It bothers me that kind of thing can exist, where a cop can screw your life up through no fault of your own, but we can't get him to arrest people who are exposing children to adult sex shows. Like, I recognize pencils have erasers, bad cops exist, and these things happens. It's under the water under the bridge. I'm like, okay, these are things that are part of the system. But why then do we struggle to stop this?
Because they are focused primarily on immediate public safety. So like driving is a big part of it. They don't want a car to hit a human and the human die. Like the kids getting sexualized doesn't have like an immediate thing you notice. Like there's no immediate change in their physical health when it happens. So the cop doesn't really have like a thing to stop right away. I mean, when you think about it and you realize what's happening, then you can start to make the argument that we need to do some preventative measures. But they're more interested in just like stopping violence.
I just think our culture is shattered. I think that the internet has ripped it to shreds. There's no more unified sense of morality. And now among cops, for the most part, they're just like, I want to keep my head down and stay out of it. So in Texas, famously, you had a drag show with kids and there were sexualized things going on in there. And the cops were like, I ain't doing anything about this. And it's just like, yo, we could just Google the law and show you it's illegal. And the cop's like, don't look at me. I'm not getting involved. That's insane.
Yeah, because cops are just going to follow orders from whoever is telling them the order, you know, whether it's like the chief or, you know, go down different levels. So these cops aren't going to go out of their way to actually do any vigilante justice or stand up for what's right. They're just going to literally follow procedure.
I'll tell you what will happen. Check out the story from the Post Millennial. Michigan House makes using wrong pronouns a felony. The bill makes it a felony for someone to make an individual, quote, feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened, and is punishable by up to 5 years in prison and $10,000 fine. They say, they write, on Tuesday, Michigan State House passed a bill making it a felony. HB 4474 is designed to replace Michigan's Ethnic Intimidation Act to expand categories of protected classes to include identity, gender identity expression, and sexual orientation, and it passed 59 to 50. It is not yet law, but I guarantee, we will see, if this passes, I'm not so sure that it will, but maybe, I mean, it's Michigan, you got, you know, I think Whitmer's still there, right? You will see people arrested for this. And you know why I have absolute confidence in saying that? Because Jordan Peterson warned us, how many was it, 7 or 8 years ago? And then in Canada, we have seen several instances where people have been criminally charged for using wrong pronouns.
I imagine this violates some sort of free First Amendment issue. Like, you can't tell me what I can and can't say to you. That's my right to say whatever I want. There might be, you know, I'm not saying that the person's not going to throw a punch if I anger them and then they'll go to jail or whatever, but that's like the essence of this nation.
The Supreme Court ruled on 303 Creative, this Christian web designer who said, under Colorado's anti-discrimination laws, I feel as though I would be compelled to make wedding websites for same-sex couples if they approach me about it, and I don't think that's fair. And one of the things that came up in the decision today was the justices wrote, Colorado, under the interpretation of the law Colorado currently has, they would compel this woman into speech that she doesn't agree with. And so it's kind of similar to what you're saying. I wonder if in some way there is already legal precedent that, you know, this is Michigan, so they can't necessarily take Colorado law, but if we have federal law that says you can't compel speech, like at what point do you prioritize the First Amendment? Maybe they would invalidate
what
it.
they're saying with this is that if you, it's like I'm pretty sure the bill is specifically about in the act of committing a crime if you do this thing. It's what do they call it?
Like a hate crime thing?
It's a hate crime thing, but it's I forgot what it's called in law when they add on to the crime because of a thing you did. I forgot what I can't think of it right now. Yeah.
Like a secondary offense, I think, is what they call it. Like you can't get pulled over
enhancement
for
or something
but
like
once
that.
you get pulled over, they
yeah,
can charge
I
you.
mean, it's bad. It's a bad precedent, but I think it was Nuance Bro who was talking. He's like, it's kind of comparable to the lynching bill. It's like, well, lynching's already illegal. It's already illegal to harass people. It's already illegal to do these things in this bill.
To make someone feel terrorized.
Yeah, that's not up to me. The way you feel is the way you choose to feel. My words are not making you feel anything. I'm making noise, and then you are interpreting that and making yourself feel a certain way.
We will see someone arrested for this.
Yeah, me. I'm probably going to get arrested for this. I'm going to yell at, you know, Governor Whitmer and call her a boy and go to jail.
You can't go to Michigan anymore?
No.
They'll say that you were it's right-wing terror and all that stuff.
Can you get arrested for it, or is it just an additional charge that you would get, or it makes the charge more severe if you're also misgendering them?
Like,
I think this in and of itself is a hate crime to make someone feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened.
By misgendering them.
Well, in any way. It literally, I don't think it specifies.
To make someone feel afraid, is that what it says?
Intimidate means willful course of conduct involving repeated or continuing harassment of another individual that would cause a reasonable individual to feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened, and that actually causes the victim to feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened. Intimidate does not include constitutionally protected activity or conduct that serves a legitimate purpose.
Well, constitutional protected activity is calling a man a woman.
That's right.
But apparently not.
No, it is.
You would think.
So that will be up for the courts, but we are marching in the direction. So look, Jordan Peterson, this was his big thing. Was it Bill C-16 or whatever it was back in the day? He was like, what's the next thing? He's like, people go to jail for this. They all mocked him and they said, you're lying. They were like, Dr. Peterson, the penalty is a fine. And then he goes, and what happens if you don't pay the fine? And everyone's like, you go to jail. And he's like, Oh, so what did I say that was wrong? And then sure enough, we've seen it. There was like one guy who wouldn't call his daughter male pronouns, so they arrested him or something like that.
What?
Up in Canada.
Oh, well, I didn't
Let me
see
see
that.
let me see if I can find
Yeah.
We
that.
had a
crazy.
member one night that was afraid to say anything bad about Trudeau because he was a Canadian. And he's like, I can't, like, you guys can make the jokes, but I won't make any jokes here on your after show.
Danny
Here's a caller.
Polishuk
Yeah.
doesn't
There you
even
go.
make that money Trudeau jokes, and he's
2021.
he's edgy.
He's like the
2021.
funniest.
Father arrested for discussing child's gender transition in defiance of court order.
I mean,
You know,
why would a kid
teenager
want
was
their parent
born
to go to
female, and he was kept referring to her with the. Look at this. Look at the New York Post wrote, referring to his teen daughter, referring to him with the pronouns she and her. Born female. Okay, New York Post. He was found in contempt of court and arrested Tuesday for calling the teen his daughter and publicly referring to him with the pronouns she and her. The teenager was born as a female.
And that's in Canada?
Yep.
Well, that's already happening here, though. In California,
Yeah.
they want it to be child abuse if you don't affirm your child's
Exactly. I'm telling you,
perceived
it is.
gender.
It is coming.
Everybody got really mad at Target for the tuck-friendly bathing suit, but then when you really looked at it, their marketing of VP was giving $2.1 million to Glisten, which actually is a corporation that helps kids transition behind their parents' back.
But
So they really are. I mean,
Yeah.
They're not secretive about what they're
it's
supportive
out
of.
in the open.
they've been partnered with organizations like that for like over a decade, though. Target is one of the headline sponsors for New York City's Youth Pride and was one of the founding sponsors of New York City Youth Pride. So it wasn't just, I'm just surprised it took this long for people to realize
But I think
how
the
far their
narrative-
tentacles were reaching.
I think the narrative around pride in these organizations shifted over time. Like over the last decade, it went from being like, you're going to come out to your parents and they're not going to accept you and you need a chosen family who will embrace you and love you, to being like, you're going to tell your parents that you want to undergo medical intervention surgery to alter your sexual characteristics, and they're going to say no, and that's terrible, and you're going to have to look for people to support you. Like the conversation has dramatically shifted as our leftist progressive counterparts have embraced gender ideology.
It's the Bolsheviks. They took the ownership of children very
Imagine
seriously.
a court ordering you to not refer to your own daughter as your daughter. And he got arrested for it. This is back in 2021 March, I think it was.
Yeah, it'd be
And so
annoying.
like in California, they're passing that bill that says you have to affirm your kids, otherwise it's child abuse. They'll take your kids from you.
No compelled speech laws. I don't like that. I mean, affirming the kid isn't necessarily a speech thing. Because if they start making you, compelling you to say something, then they can make you say things about your leader. And no, that's
I mean,
not.
this is
People
like
How
I
many
said
lights
before.
are
This
there,
is
Ian? Yeah.
a specific thing the Supreme Court just ruled on yesterday, that we shouldn't be, that state laws shouldn't compel you to do something that violates the way you would otherwise speak. But again, they're dancing the line. They're sort of saying like, well, we're not saying that you can't say something. We're just saying that we'll punish you if you don't say this other thing.
Well, I think the dad was really disappointed because if you notice in this particular situation, this was a female to male transition, giving them no advantage in sports. Now, if this was the other way around, where it was a male transitioning to a female, maybe she would have been a great athlete like Leah Thomas, and then he would have been more proud of her.
Maybe it's on the dad. Maybe he's
It's
just
on the
mad.
dad. That's what I'm saying. I think it's the dad's fault.
The
He should-
father
he
was
should go to
trying
jail.
to find medical solutions that didn't involve drugs, and they were like, nope, drugs. Yeah, wow.
Well, that's the thing, Tim. They literally, this has happened with Chloe Cole. They'll tell the children's parents that the child is going to kill themselves if they do not get this gender reaffirming surgery.
When
or
in
hormones.
actuality, desistance rates are between like 65 and 98%. So your best opportunity, the best course of action seemingly for the child, this is what Europe found, is nothing.
Yeah.
Non-intervention. Non-intervention. And when they say stuff like, if you don't do this, your kid will take their own life or harm themselves, it's actually the inverse. If the suicidality, ideation and action is higher among the transgender population, but children are 60 to 90% likely to desist with no intervention, then intervention actually increases the rate of suicidality.
Yes.
We don't want to get medical misinformation, but SSRIs actually increase your suicidal idolization.
Well,
So does
I'll
birth
keep it
control.
simply. Make sure you find a good doctor you trust for
Yes.
all of this stuff, because
Yeah.
we're just people on the internet, okay?
yeah, I'm not a doctor. Do not listen to anything from me medically.
Yeah. So I'm speaking not as a medical doctor who can talk about mental health. I'm speaking my opinion based on the studies showing desistance rates are this high.
But,
so what I should say is, If those studies are true,
Mm-hmm.
logic would dictate the best course of action is X.
But
Not a doctor, though.
You are, to confirm what you're saying, Alex, antidepressants and suicide risk from the National Institute of Health, 2005 systematic review, controlled trials, compared SSRIs with other active treatments or placebos, found almost twofold increase in the odds of fatal and non-fatal suicide acts among
That's
those
from
exposed to SSRIs.
NIH?
Yeah, National Institute of Health.
Wow.
That was the first thing that came up when I typed SSRI suicide. It's no joke.
And I'm not a
Yes.
doctor at all, but I'm telling you, not once during the pandemic did they ever tell anybody to go get some exercise and eat better. I mean, that's like, I think that's where it comes down to a lot of our mental health problems too, is the crap that we eat and that we don't exercise.
And just because I'm sure a lot of people are like, what's an SSRI? It's a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. There you go. Now you know what SSRI stands for. The more you know.
Serotonin
they
selective
and depression.
Yeah.
reuptake inhibitor.
But you've been working out a lot. How do you feel?
I feel better. No, and I think that's like, for me, I've had challenging stuff. I lost my mom not that long ago, and I remember exercising and stuff because I was very depressed about that. That's the only thing that made me feel better. So I think if it helped me with that, it would help everybody else. And I know it's not a placebo. It's not just going to fix problems. There's people that exercise that are depressed. But I'm just saying there are natural remedies, I believe, instead of just taking a magic pill.
I've been doing a mile on the bike, on the assault bike, and it's like it lowers my blood pressure. Like I was just working my lower body, a little bit of the upper body, but afterwards for like 6 hours, I just have lower blood pressure. It's fantastic for my mind.
I don't think the human body's designed for a sedentary lifestyle.
No.
And that's unfortunately, one of the nice things about having, non-manual labor jobs is that you get to be in the air conditioning and, whatever else. On the other hand, now you are putting your body at a permanent state of rest, which is not good for it. So unless you actively try to find ways to be active, you are more likely to harm your body, essentially.
I think that's why a lot of people are just more mentally ill in general, because our entire society and lifestyle is antithetical to the human condition, both mentally and physically.
Yeah, well, you mentioned birth control, and that's one of the things that I find super interesting, because you probably saw this too. There's this study that says if you start birth control before the age of 20, you're 130% more likely to develop depression.
Wow. And commit suicide.
And all women, this is like one of the largest studies ever done on this, which was 260,000 women. It was published by Cambridge University Press. They found that women of any age are 90% more likely to develop symptoms of depression if they take birth control. And to me, one of the interesting things about this, and maybe you can talk about this too, but my anecdotal experience is I'll know girls who it's not to sleep around. I know that's the thing conservative men always bring up, and it's not an unreasonable thing to question about society, but they're told, oh, you have really painful cramps. It's disruptive to your education, to your job. Get on birth control. Your skin, anything. They'll use it as this treat-all pill. But really, those are symptoms that your hormones are out of whack. So instead of treating the hormone imbalance through diet, through food, through exercise, they just say, cover that and prolong the problem. And then we don't talk about the consequences. 2020 was the 60th anniversary of when the FDA signed off on birth control as a form of contraceptive, or the pill. And yet we're still just now acknowledging that women become extremely depressed because of it. Like, that seems crazy to me. You put your body's hormones on pause for years on end and expect there to be no consequences?
No, and that's the issue, is that there's not informed consent for women for so many things that are given to them, especially birth control. These young girls, I was put on it at 14 for acne, for something minuscule, and I wasn't told, hey, you might get really depressed. Hey, you might become suicidal, and none of these women are told this. They're expected to read. It's like the terms of service. Nobody reads what's in the damn box. And so but female unhappiness, nobody's talking about this. Their subjective well-being, our subjective well-being as women, has fallen both absolutely and relatively to that of men, despite there being so much progress.
Yeah.
And there's actually a really funny Yale study that talks about this, the paradox of declining female happiness, of female unhappiness, because they talk about it. They're like, wow, we're making so much progress, but women are more unhappy than ever.
Can't figure out why.
Because we're severing women from their biological nature, from femininity, and pumping them full of hormones and telling them the only way you're happy is if you're like a man and you don't have children.
And then if you get depressed, they're like, and have some SSRIs, which we now agree.
Then they're on a
help.
pharmaceutical cocktail. Oh, the birth control. They don't even ask you. If I'm on birth control and I go to my doctor and I say I'm depressed, they do not even ask you most of the time. or mention that it might be the birth control. They just pop you on an SSRI or they pop you on something else, and now you're on a pharmaceutical cocktail, and it gets even worse.
Well, I look at a doctor a lot like a mechanic, basically, where they don't actually want to fix the problem. They just want to cut off the check engine light so you can't see what the problem is, and that's basically why they just medicate you. Instead of actually trying to fix the problem, fix the engine, actually do the hard work, they just want to give you this, placebo cure-all.
Yeah, but are you talking about bad doctors?
Yeah, but most doctors are, because they'll just give you an SSRI. You just walk in and say, "Oh, I'm depressed." They don't even ask you 10 questions about why you're
I
depressed.
don't know. Maybe you're going to bad doctors.
Yeah, but this is
Like,
this is the problem with doctors, though, Tim. Is that this? They go to college, they come out with huge debts. Any doctor that spoke out against this pandemic protocol, got fired. So they are emboldened to listen to whatever they're.
Sure.
My
Point
doctor
is this.
There's no house MD. There's no doctor. It's like, you know what? I'm going to try this unorthodox approach, because if they try to prescribe ivermectin, no, there's people.
So when during COVID, famously Joe Rogan found a doctor who gave him a prescription he wanted.
There's an exception to that rule.
He
but
probably
my point
paid
is this.
cash for him, and he probably paid cash.
Sure.
Good
but look,
doctors are not accessible
my point is this.
to most people.
This argument is like, man, I hired a plumber and he broke my toilet, and I'm like, so find a better plumber. Like, if most plumbers you find are bad, you just gotta get a good one.
But here's what I'll tell you, because good doctors
it.
are inaccessible for most people, because if they accept insurance, what happens is they turn into patient mills where they're just getting in and out. Have you ever been
the
in a
plumber's
doctor's
not a
office
good
lately?
thing, because
They're packed.
You're not arguing my point though.
The plumber analogy is not
No,
good,
it
because
is.
basically the same company that sells the plumber the pipes is telling the plumber to keep messing up the house so they can sell the plumber more pipes to replace the house.
I don't understand this argument where it's like my life should be easy and I shouldn't have to do any work to find people who
Because
can work with me.
the majority of doctors have to have one train of thought. So it's their whole livelihoods on it. They'll get fired. They can't even speak out against it. So you say, "Oh, find this one good doctor." There's only one Peter McCullough.
It's not one good doctor.
But there's not that many. I'm telling you, the
Like,
majority.
how did we find okay, look, my point.
99% of doctors are going to say the COVID vaccine is great.
I don't even
Would
think
you
it's
agree?
just that.
My point is, and I don't know about 99%, but the overwhelming majority. It's not an answer to say, because most people in this field are bad, we're screwed. It's your responsibility to make sure the people you are working with are doing right by you. It is not my or anyone else's responsibility. If you go to a bad insert any trade, that is your fault.
I think that's multifaceted, though, because most people don't know that their doctor may not be giving them the best advice. And I don't think I think a lot of doctors are becoming dishonest and they're doing brand deals. But I also think because they're focusing on volume and getting people in and out, I think a doctor should be sitting with you for an hour or two, really diving into but they don't do that.
I feel like it's not really arguing what I'm saying. So many people said, I went to my doctor and they gave me bad information. I checked online and found a different doctor.
But most people don't know.
Like,
it's bad
what is your argument? Do no research?
No.
Don't read?
Do research, but can you install a transmission in your car?
My brother can.
I'm saying, can you install a transmission in your car?
No, but I trust my brother.
I know, but I'm saying, so you go to an expert. So what if every mechanic you went to was lying to you, Tim?
So here's what I do. I go online, I look up basic transmission stuff, and
you're going to learn how to install a transmission?
Let me ask you a question. When you go to a car dealer, do you take his word for it?
A lot of times, yeah.
That's a mistake.
Well, this is how it works, because I actually have my dealer's license. How it works is in Texas, if you buy a car through a licensed dealer, you have to give them basically like a post-sale inspection. You have to give them, make sure that it passes inspection. Mm-hmm. And if not, you have to tell them it's as is. So in that sense, it is good because, listen, I don't like the government getting involved in business, but at least when I sold a person a car, they knew it was either as is with no warranty or the car was perfectly fine.
If the argument is Big Pharma is corrupt, and many doctors just accept whatever they say, and Big Pharma sponsors universities, there's no question. But I do not accept the argument that a person, it's not a person's fault for not taking the responsibility to do research on who they're hiring to treat their bodies.
Yeah, but I wouldn't know how to treat cancer. I wouldn't know how to, there's a lot of stuff.
But let me tell you, if you went to a doctor and they prescribed like splashing bleach in your face, you'd be like, hey, wait a minute.
Well,
wait a minute.
There's a lot of doctors who say, "Oh, here, get this chemo," and then.
But you're not arguing any. Like, you're not arguing what I'm saying. I don't understand.
Well, I guess what happens.
I'm saying I don't trust a doctor. You say, "Oh, you can just find these great unicorn doctors." I don't think that. I think the whole entire industry has been infected.
That's
by the
clearly not
FDA.
true,
Well,
though.
RFK Jr. was saying it's the FDA.
There are tons of people who got prescribed a bunch of different treatments during COVID. There are like people posting on Twitter how their doctors doing these treatments.
Yes, but
there was a coalition of doctors doing it.
But even that coalition the government could still stop CVS from prescribing ivermectin. So it doesn't even matter. Even if the doctor has his best intentions. Oh, well, I do have this medication. I'm going to prescribe it. Then you go to your CVS. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not going to fill out your prescription, Mr. Poole, because this isn't authorized for that. So even the doctor can be superseded by
no one is
the
arguing
government.
that there's no corruption.
Yeah.
The argument is you can't come to me and be like, I hired a plumber and he broke my toilet. It's their fault. I'll be like, dude, why didn't you do any research before? Like I don't know what the argument is that
doctors take an oath to make sure that they have their patient's best interest, and I don't think doctors follow that oath.
I think I'm viewing it from an individualist and you're viewing it from a collectivist perspective.
It's more fair to think of it as a fireman than a plumber, because the fireman, it's life and death. They have to put the fire out the right way. If they go in there and they create some sort of arson or do something faulty, you're going to know immediately. And it's the same way with doctors. I mean, plumbers, obviously, it's just not life and death.
How about this? Look at your cat, Mr. Bocus. They want to euthanize it. They just want to. Doctors in Canada right now are literally prescribing people medically assisted suicide because they can't afford the chairlift in their house.
We also found a guy who said, "Give us 10 grand, we'll give him stem cells." And the stem cells didn't work. Did he?
I think they're working. I don't know if they can grow his heart or anything.
It's not working.
I mean,
so who do we?
for most people.
So yes, and so who do we trust? The guy who said, "Pay me a lot of money and I'll save your cat." Oops, it didn't work. Maybe he had the best intentions and he was correct. It just didn't work. Or the doctor says, this treatment's not going to work. I recommend you not do it. Who turned out to be correct. It's just...
No, I don't trust a doctor that says, kill your cat. And then if you say no, he says, okay, then give it this medicine until it dies. I'm like, no, fuck off, dude. I'm going to heal my cat. Thank you.
Okay. I don't disagree. But my point is, we pay for the expensive treatment that didn't work.
I think it worked. It's not a superhero treatment.
Was it supposed to work or prolong his life?
Yeah, just like regeneration.
No, stem cells was supposed to work.
But it's experimental.
The drugs are supposed to prolong his life.
And Tim, did you know the third leading cause of death is doctor malpractice?
I don't know if that's true. Is that true?
Google it.
Third cause of death?
Yeah, I think it's the third leading cause of death behind heart disease and cancer.
Who would admit that? That's like a funny statistic.
Well, look it up.
Medical error is the third leading cause of death according to IHI.org.
Yeah, so this is the problem, and this is what. No, but let me just say this, Tim, and I'm not trying to get emotional because once again I have to bring up my mother dying. It was the worst thing in my life. But we told the doctors not to give her remdesivir. They still gave her remdesivir because they could still bill her insurance without our authority. As soon as we signed a DNR, they were able to do whatever they want. They could care less. They know remdesivir. They know for a fact. I know we can't say stuff. I'm just saying.
No. My point is, you're telling me that you are like, wow,
I told the doctor not to do something. A doctor could still do it. Do you understand that? The doctor has full control. They can just mess up on your heart surgery. So
sure.
What I'm saying is,
so here's my point. You're going, this doctor is clearly wrong. Would you do heart surgery on me?
No, I wouldn't get that.
If you go to a doctor and the doctor says something and you're like, that doctor's wrong, I should have him do my heart surgery. That makes no sense.
No, but I'm just saying all doctors are basically corrupt.
Do you think that there's no Trump supporting doctors?
Of course, but I think that they're in the major minority.
It's that they're centralized through the AMA and the FDA. We can only talk about
so much stuff because of medical misinformation. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to be talking. I would sound like RFK, but I think if you just look at RFK and you look at correlation and causation, and you could look at a lot of stuff, Tim, and you could see some numbers.
He's also, I think he's wrong about a lot of stuff.
Oh well, and
I'm in favor.
I think about childhood vaccines. I mean, we can, like I said, medical misinformation. We're going to say so much, but I do think it's weird, some of the schedules of vaccines for young children at that young of age. And then you look at the occurrence of autism at a rate that we've never seen. I'm not saying that they're totally connected, but I mean, it's hard to not, put two and two together.
Do ourselves a favor, investigate. That's, raise the yellow flag and let's take a look at all this stuff, man.
One of the biggest issues when it comes to any of this stuff is, if there are 50 variables in a problem and you're aware of 2 of them, you might think those 2 things are correlated, but you don't know the other variables. So the trans kids, for instance, is a good argument. Conservatives often talk about social contagion, and then I immediately say endocrine disruptors. Like, there are other things that are disrupting the hormones of children that could be causing this.
Speaking of,
but it's like cancer clusters. They can usually figure out what's causing something if there's a cluster of people getting sick from the same thing.
You can, and especially with AI, you can put that data in and very quickly.
So we
easily
should
know
be
this.
able to figure this out, but
So the answer is not that we know for sure, but that we should take all the data available. Not it's. I think we should
not
take kids,
8 mice.
right. We should have any kid diagnosed with autism, and we should talk about where they live, environmental factors, density of like uraniums or selenium or whatever may be in their water, medications, vaccines, not just any one, but all. Load that into an AI and it'll show us the patterns, and then we can assess that and move forward. My main point with doctors is I do not disagree that most doctors just say, this is what we're told to give you. My point is that is the reason why it is incumbent upon you to go to a doctor, ask questions, and then shop around.
Well, do you think most doctors would listen to Peter Hotez?
The answer is yes, but to what degree? Because if you go to rural areas and MAGA country, you'll find most doctors there probably would not. But most could be 51%. I actually think you'll find a lot of doctors who you're going to have a higher density of doctors in major urban liberal centers. And as Democrats believe what CNN tells them and just march in lockstep. But I guarantee you, if you go to a Trump supporting doctor, he's going to agree with you.
Yeah, a Trump supporting one. Yeah.
And there's many of them. There's a lot of them. So we can put it this simply. If you are distrustful of the medical system, find a doctor who politically aligns with you and then do
I
your
don't
research.
think politics is enough, though, because I think there's Trump-supporting doctors who still will prescribe
Yeah,
birth
just 'cause
control
they
to
want
young,
to make
young
money.
girls. They're still going to give out SRI.
You still have responsibility. It is not the responsibility of everyone else. Like
Yeah, but if
you,
you come to me, Tim, you say, I have cancer, I need help, and I'm a doctor. You're going to take whatever they give you because you're going to trust them.
no.
When you have doctors
Dude.
are going to lose their medical license if they don't adhere
If your
to a
if your
certain
argument is people don't have agency,
You should
many
do
people
your own
don't.
research, but I'm just saying there's questions
What
that
did
we don't have
Steve
the
Jobs
answers
went on a
to that
fruitarian
we were-
diet when he had pancreatic cancer and then died?
I don't think that helped him, but I'm saying
I agree.
You look to
You should have
experts-
listened to his doctors.
But you
And
look
meditated.
to experts for answers that you don't have. So yes, you can do your own research, but you're still going to go with the expert's opinion more often than not.
And if you find out, if anyone of any job comes to you and says the sky's green, and you go, I'll take your word for it. That's on you.
Well, sometimes the sky is green.
When there's a storm coming, especially, it's really cool, and you're like, oh. Thanks. My point is, you cannot just say they're the experts, so everyone just does what they say. That's a problem.
But here's
you
one.
should not.
Here's an
I
example.
think that's my point is that most people don't know that you shouldn't take a doctor's word as the Bible.
There's nothing
That's
you can
the
do
biggest
about this.
issue.
So you as individuals should not, like, we should be telling people, and this is my position, shop around for a doctor you trust. That is the answer. I believe it is counterproductive to be like, there's no
What if
point.
it's an
All
emergency?
doctors-
What if it's an
no.
emergency? You just go in the emergency room. You don't get to pick your doctor.
It's an emergency. You're out of luck.
But you
like
don't-
the world is not fair. The world is not perfect. The world is not safe. If you are in
But isn't
New
it a
York
bad
City,
system that if you have an emergency, you're going to go to a doctor?
no
that's more
one
than
is
likely bad?
arguing against that. But you said all doctors are bad,
Not all, but I'd say the majority of them are.
and the majority could be what, 51% or
Well,
99.
I think that they're given bad information because they're not. That's why I think it is. I think they're actually probably good inherently, like morally, they're probably good, but they're going off bad information.
Yes,
Tim,
we need the average person to take responsibility for their health and not just go, oh. That means instead of saying all doctors are bad, it's pointless, we say, no, you just have to work hard, and if you don't deserve it. If you blindly trust someone to inject you in a 7-Eleven parking lot, you deserve whatever happens.
But it's-
if you do research and to the best of your ability decide what is right for you because the responsibility is incumbent upon you, then sure, malpractice, I believe, kicks in.
Well, what if you can't afford that doctor?
Yeah, I would exactly.
If you can't afford medical treatment, welcome to real life. If you can't afford a spear and you're in the woods and a bear attacks you, that's not my problem.
Not to be a contrarian, even though I am conservative, I actually do believe that our medical industrial complex is totally crooked and that we need to have caps or we should have some sort of socialized healthcare. I know that sounds crazy and that's not a conservative viewpoint, but I think the basic necessity of having insulin, the fact that insulin is $200 in Texas, but it's $2 in Mexico, that's because of corruption. So
Agreed.
We have such a corrupt system.
I think it is corrupt. And that
can't
means
fix it.
That means you have to personally do the work to find a good doctor.
But I can't change the price of insulin.
You can go to Mexico, you can go to Canada.
Do you
Donald
think there
Trump
needs
worked
to
towards
be
it.
reform in the
I
medical
just
industry?
hold on.
though?
This is the main issue right now. You cannot be like, no, all doctors are bad. End of story.
Well,
Have a
the
nice
problem
day.
is they're coming from a centralized
Well,
authority.
that's too general. That's not how I
would
really
agree
feel.
with
about
that.
it.
I reject the
You
idea
said
that it's
really
like, nope, even if there's a good doctor, it's too expensive. That's not true. It's just hard. Life is hard. You are not entitled to anything. You do not have the right to walk into a city and be like, I demand the doctor do things perfectly. That's not how reality works. You can hire a security guard, you can hire a cop, and then that cop runs away from the mass shooting event and gets
Well, that's
criminally
not
charged
true
for it.
because a cop and an attorney they take an oath to, you know.
An oath is the world is not a rigid mathematical system. It is a system of people and fallibility. A cop can fail at his job and then you sue. A doctor can fail at his job and then you sue.
Mm-hmm.
You as an individual have the responsibility to make sure you are doing everything you require. And it's, to me, the point is this. I guarantee you, if you walk into a random clinic and say, Doc, whatever you say is law, you will end up with problems. But if you read some reviews online, do some research, let me tell you a story. I got prescribed an antibiotic once, and it had joint issues were associated with it. I said, I will not. I looked up online what this was. I won't take it. I skateboard. And they said, okay. And then I said, I read online about this alternative treatment. And they said, okay. And they handed me my prescription. If you don't do any of that and bad things happens, it's not because doctors are bad. It's because you don't take responsibility for your own life.
But sometimes the data they have is wrong, and then people are hooked into a system that they don't realize. Let's take a heroin addict, trying to get a heroin addict to realize that they're in a bad place. So you need from the outside to be like white knighting for these people that are stuck. Like,
or what about this, real quick? What about a cancer patient that's dying that can't get access to opioids because we're having such a fentanyl crisis, to a patient that actually needs it?
So this is like a leftist view that we should be able to give everyone everything, but medicine
No, but I'm
is-
talking access. I'm not talking about it for free. But
if
I'm
it
just-
doesn't exist, I'm sorry, you can't have it. I would like to fly, but I don't have a jetpack.
No, but I'm talking about, have you noticed now doctors will not prescribe opioids to people that are actually in pain because they do not want to get in trouble because there's such an overabundance.
I think it's a good thing.
But what about the cancer patient that is in actual pain that's not going to abuse the pills? That
I
really
don't
needs
think
it?
you're entitled to any of these. I don't understand. I don't get it.
You don't think
Like-
the cancer patient should be entitled to pain medication?
And no, absolutely not. I do not think anyone is entitled to just be given things. It just makes no sense to me. If it doesn't exist, you can't have it. I'll tell you this. Wouldn't they be entitled to a cure for their cancer?
No, because we don't have that. But I'm talking about if somebody's in pain and we have a cheap thing that'll fix their pain, I think that they should be able to have access to it. Instead, doctors are saying, no, we can't, because you know what? A few years ago, we overprescribed Oxycontin, and then we got in trouble, and so now we can't actually give people with pain medicine. I'm sorry. Oopsie poopsie. I'm a doctor.
The system is imperfect. Find a better doctor.
this is also wild. I don't know if you guys saw the World Health Organization just classified aspartame as a possible carcinogen.
And that's another thing we need to talk about. The level of cancer in young people now is at the highest levels it's ever been.
So we're talking about
There's a
autism
lot-
earlier. Like
and-
you were talking about all these different factors that could happen in the 80s. The amount of aspartame that pregnant
Look
mothers
at
were
me,
drinking.
I'm drinking it
You're
right
drinking
now.
diet soda.
Diet
Dude,
soda. I'm getting cancer right
really,
now.
aspartame. I've been beating the drum about how nasty this stuff is for about a decade. There's so few studies on this thing, aspartame.
Well, they kept on declining it when it, originally tried to get approved by the FDA.
Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah.
It
You
was
guys,
Reagan put Rumsfeld in with this and got it with like they wouldn't vote to make it a food because it was like, I don't know if they used it as rat poison or something in the 60s. And then when Reagan got in, it was like the day he got into office, he stacked this 5-man panel and then they made it legal.
I think it's a little bit ridiculous, though, that they're coming out, ooh, aspartame causes cancer. First of all, we knew that. Second of all, I think it's just kind of signaling like, look, guys, don't worry. We'll tell you if something's bad for you. Meanwhile, the FDA just approved lab-grown meat. Like, give me a break. In the same breath that they're approving lab-grown meat, they're like, oh, by the way, Diet Coke might cause cancer.
It took them 40 years to say that. That
Yes.
aspartame might be cancerous.
I don't
40
think
years.
they have a
What else are they not
interest. They're
saying?
not
We got to
yes.
go to super chats. So I'll start by reading 2 recent ones, and then we'll go back to being like we normally do. And Jason Hutchison says, Tim just went full Ludwig von Mises. You're all a bunch of socialists, and it's awesome. I stand with Tim on this. However, Doc Holliday says, Alex is right. Docs are pushers for Big Pharma, and Ashley is hot AF. So, you know. And then Doc had said, Tim failing miserably. This is embarrassing. You are wrong. I am right. The fact is, it doesn't matter if docs are corrupt. You are not entitled to a system that works as you want it to be unless you work to build it. If it is truth and reality that most doctors shill for Big Pharma, and we all accept that, it is incumbent upon you to find someone you trust to prescribe you medication. And if you simply go, nope, no such thing exists, then you are entitled to nothing.
Hey, but Tim,
There you go.
I can kind of be your argument right now. Have you ever heard of Nigeria?
Yes, I've
They
heard of
had
that.
the lowest levels of COVID.
Yeah, right.
How would you compare their medical system to ours? Would you say that theirs is better or worse than ours?
I don't know.
Well, I would say that it's worse, right?
Why would you say that?
Well, let's just because the infrastructure, the schools. That I think that.
Do you actually know about their infrastructure?
Well, I know that we have more top universities in America than Africa when it comes to medical school.
So
So my point is, but let's get to the point. Let's get to the point. I'm saying
I think
a
it
place
is a-
that had less medical supplies and probably less medical infrastructure did better with the pandemic than the country that had access to everything.
A lot of assumptions were just made there that I can't
I think
answer.
No, but
Diet's
look
a
at
huge part of it.
look up Nigeria's COVID rate.
Yes.
So why was Nigeria with less medical infrastructure able to?
Do you
handle-
know they have less medical infrastructure?
For a fact? Google. You and I both know this. Look, we can be cute. You
No,
know
no,
that.
no.
You know that the United States has a better. Excuse me. You know for a fact the United States has a better medical system than Nigeria.
When you just
let's
told
not
me
be
the whole
cute.
thing was corrupt and doctors are prescribing bad things to people, I don't know what you're saying.
Life expectancy in Nigeria is 52 years, 54
yes,
years.
and does that include infant mortality?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I
up.
don't know anything about Nigeria.
at Wikipedia.
The point I was going to make was it is reasonable to assume their medical system is much, much worse than ours.
Yes.
But I just don't
And they
know.
handled the
So
pandemic
half of the
much
population
better.
I
lives on
don't
less
know
than
that's
$1.90
true.
a day.
So it's like less
it's like
doctors
dude says things about
save-
country I don't know anything about.
But what I'm saying is less medical intervention in that country. Let's agree that there was less medical intervention in Nigeria.
I don't know that.
But assuming that's the case, there might have been.
Assuming that's the case,
That
let's
might not be the
assume-
reason.
Let's just for hypotheticals. Let's just assume that
I never do that.
But even if that's true, Alex,
I never say let's choose a country I know nothing about, did no research on.
But the
I have
overarching
no idea what they're
point
doing
is
in the
that
country.
the country with less medical supplies did better during the pandemic than the one with access to every single medical supply and medical expert in the world. Why is that?
better,
Okay,
could
so-
have been
Probably
better
because
diet.
they just did less for COVID, not that they had some.
How much did
genius
Nigeria
COVID
spend?
policy.
That's because they did less. Because
Okay,
they
first,
did less.
what was their
and
protocol?
more people lived.
What was their COVID protocol?
Well, the
Probably-
reason why is because there they have
what
parasites.
was their COVID protocol?
Well, they have,
What was it?
I believe it was ivermectin in Nigeria. They have it.
Frequency.
I'm
I know
not
the
sure.
American protocol for COVID. I know exactly what the
Well,
United
in
States did.
Nigeria, they had to take ivermectin because they have parasites in their water, so they already take it regularly. So I don't know if they had to take a different scheduling of it because they already take it. You see
So
I'm
what was
saying?
their COVID protocol then?
I don't know what their.
So this is the
identical
problem. I don't know how you can use them as an example if you don't even know what they were doing.
I don't even need to know. Them doing nothing was still more
Maybe
beneficial.
they did something. Maybe they actually did though.
Well, I would guess that they did less in America when it came to.
Well, a guess is okay, but if we don't know why, use it as an
this is how I
example.
know because I know that they administered less vaccines.
Sure, but
So they did less vaccines and they had less deaths.
I cannot even begin to have a conversation if you don't know what they did.
I have a general idea, so I have enough of an idea to form an opinion.
So your opinion is, I assume they did a thing, but I don't know exactly what they did.
My opinion
That's
is
fine.
that their
I just don't
medical
know them.
system is not as good as America's medical system. I think we could all agree on that. That Nigeria does not have as good a medical system as America.
I think it's reasonable to assume.
Okay, if that's
I don't know
reasonable
anything
to
about Nigeria.
assume, we had the worst pandemic in the history, in recorded history, other since what the whatever
Spanish flu
in 1920. But other than that, in a country in Africa had less COVID fatalities.
dude. What about
because
Wakanda?
they
like
had
insert
Wakanda's
random
fake.
country.
It's not random. It's not random.
Uganda.
What I'm saying, Uganda
they had more. I don't know what they did. I don't know the numbers, but I'll just say it.
Africa had lower COVID rates than North America.
Yes, my point is there is no conversation to be had if you're going to say a thing that I have no information
My point
on,
is less
and you
doctors
don't
are
know.
better. That's
Not
my
necessarily.
point.
It could be
That's
a better-
insane.
It could be better diet, like or just that
Well,
they
that's-
don't.
that's what I assume,
They
I
have
think.
less bad diet. Here we have a lot of plastics, like food colorings made from coal tar, aspartame, high fructose corn syrup, which is like a Franken chemical. Obesity, 60% obesity rates, like that's a big part of COVID was obesity. Maybe they didn't have that in Africa.
It could be a lack of reporting. You said their medical system's
Yeah, that's
not as
true. That's
superior
true.
as the United
So
States.
you can't
So-
be like, I don't know what they did.
No, but I know
don't
the
know their
number's big
reporting
enough.
system. I don't know their
I know the number is
population.
a big enough discrepancy that it wasn't just because of underreporting.
This is the issue.
I know that.
I'll tell you another issue I take with RFK's stance. He's taken the false stance that ivermectin was not approved because if there was a treatment for COVID, it would ruin the vaccine emergency use authorization, which makes literally no sense at all.
Wait,
because
what is it?
monoclonal antibodies got an EUA as well. And if ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine worked, they could give it an EUA as well. You don't need to hard approve something to allow it to be used off-label for treatment.
No,
so
but
this statement,
it would not have the vaccine. It would have affected the approval for the vaccine.
then how come the monoclonal antibodies didn't approve affect the approval for vaccines?
Maybe because that's in the same class as a vaccine.
It's not.
Well, I don't know that to be the case. I mean,
Okay, so monoclonal antibodies is a therapeutic. It is not a
the
vaccination.
reason why they're able to not do the standard testing, the protocol that
Because
they
of
would normally
EUA.
do, is because of the
and
emergency
that has
use
and so
authorization.
everyone keeps saying
So if ivermectin would have been effective, they would have not been able to use it with an emergency use.
EUA. They could have put it under EUA the same as
You're talking about putting an ivermectin, yeah, but they didn't
Yes.
want to do that because it costs 2 cents and everybody can get it because they wouldn't have benefited financially from doing that.
Perhaps. So if
For a
that,
fact,
so
because
that's what
everybody's
I
been
so what I
taking
said
ivermectin
was
forever.
the argument from RFK that the reason it was not approved is because that would end the EUA is wrong, and you agree with me, right?
Well, it would have if ivermectin would have been given to more people. I don't think ivermectin just is some cure-all for COVID. I just wanted to say that.
Okay, this is
But
my
I
point.
think that it could have helped.
RFK was wrong when he said that.
And so that would have maybe lessened the vaccines emergency use
the
authorization.
position taken by RFK and many others that ivermectin was not approved because it would have affected the EUA is an incorrect statement because there were treatments approved under EUA outside of vaccines. If the argument is that it couldn't make money off it, I agree.
Yeah.
If it had been approved,
That's the
I think
point.
that's what this all comes down to for big pharma is money, though, Tim.
I think if ivermectin had been approved not for emergency use, but actually just approved as a functioning therapeutic, then maybe it would have disrupted the EUAs for the others.
Right. And so long as monoclonal antibodies, which were exorbitantly expensive and unavailable to the average person,
Yeah,
did
ivermectin costs 1 cent a pill.
did receive an EUA, then they could have put it under EUA. So the problem I have with this is it is a false argument. And if you want to make the argument it was because of price, I agree. They don't want to approve cheap, free drugs because Big Pharma is corrupt and evil.
Yeah, so I agree
So,
with that.
so here's my issue. That is logically and discernibly true. But people get so knee-jerk defensive about any of this. They're like, nope, RFK's right. I'm like, but there's no logic. It makes no sense. The money thing makes sense. The EUA thing does not. But people get mad at me like, Tim won't admit it. He's wrong about this one. No, I'm right.
Well, think how much money they made with just the vaccines that nobody took.
Oh, just the mass-produced, thrown in the
that
garbage,
just got-
locked in
yeah.
freezers.
And
the
they
idea,
expired.
The idea that we would give no bid, no liability contracts to massive multinational corporations and mandate medication is psychotic.
Yeah, but that's what's ruining the world is that we're not run by human beings. And I think I said this last time. We're being run by multinational corporations that don't have the ability to feel empathy when they can buy and sell these politicians. Even Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump, but he's inviting the Johnson & Johnson family on stage. I'm saying every politician has a price, and these multinational corporations like Pepsi trying to put aspartame in our soda, or whether it's Raytheon trying to sell more tanks in the Ukraine, they can actually affect the world. You and me complaining about it can't do jack shit.
I actually think complaining about it, we do have a pretty big impact.
Yes.
On the world.
With the boycotts.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
boycotts
like
were the
Budweiser.
boycotts have given me hope.
Yeah, but
It's you got to believe, man. You got to believe.
But the Pentagon budget, I think they had what was it, 900 billion was unaccounted for.
trillions.
I'm talking about just
Recently.
900 million was non-accounted for non-military spending for the
Yes.
past year. So almost, it was 900 billion. Excuse me, almost $1 trillion. Yeah, because a trillion's 1,000 billion. It was 900 billion unaccounted for. They don't have a paper trail of what that's for.
That's been happening at the
Every year, I
Pentagon,
know,
though.
but listen, I'm not a socialist, but we should reallocate
I
those
agree.
funds and help people instead of just killing people in foreign countries.
Let's read some super chats. Cody Griffin says, Tim, will you have RFK on and grill him about his wish to pass common sense gun restrictions? Would love the debate. Yes, I think we're talking to them. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. The idea is to have RFK on the Culture War podcast, but we will see. And I think it would be a really interesting discussion as it pertains to COVID, lockdowns, vaccinations, etc. I am so in favor of RFK debating Hotez. I offered $100,000 to a charity of Hotez's choosing if you would have that debate. And I have said right here, I staunchly disagree with some of what RFK Jr. has said. A lot of it I'm not completely, apprised to. So he's welcome to have his opinions and say things. It is insane to me that one of the leading experts is refusing to have this conversation. I am not an expert. I have no problem sitting before Alex Stein and being like, no, here's what I believe and here's why I believe it. Why is Hotez afraid to do that?
My personal thought is that he was threatened, maybe not threatened, but asked politely not to do it by some of his compatriots in the medical industry. I don't know why. Other than that, he likes doing podcasts and movies and stuff, so I'd love it.
I feel like he just knows he couldn't keep up. I mean, information aside, I don't think he can present as well.
And
Not
a
as-
debate would open him up for that he could be wrong. So there's no point in him having a debate because then it's like, oh, well, I'm having a debate because maybe you could give me.
The answer is simple. He does not believe what he says.
Would you have a
Well,
Hotez adjacent person come on and
Yes.
debate RFK?
Yeah, but,
Absolutely.
listen, and Tim, I think what you said is exactly right because, once again, medical misinformation, but Peter Hotez has an autistic daughter, and he wrote a book saying that vaccines do not cause autism. That is very weird, right? I'm not saying that he's not right in that, but that it's like, I don't know what he's trying to run cover for something. It just seems sinister that you would write that book if you did have an autistic.
Here's why I disagree with the vaccine causes autism crowd.
Okay.
What is your basis for that assumption?
Well, if you look at the
Or
MMR
belief.
vaccine, if you look at the scheduling of MMR vaccine, and Del Bigtree did a really good video about this called Vax, and there was a time when Robert De Niro had this playing in the Tribeca Film Festival, and they got it taken out. Do you remember that? I don't know if
You want to just tell me the basis for your...
Oh, well, of the MMR vaccine. Well, they even did it with the scheduling of the MMR. If the measles, mumps, rubella, if they actually gave it to them at an older age, they had less of an occurrence of autism. And as a matter of fact, it was more. It was the MMR scheduling. Even when they had the stats saying that if they spread it out, there was less autism, they still kept the normal scheduling. And there's a whole documentary about this called Vax, and it affects boys and people of color even more.
So here's the issue. If you say, we've got a generation of kids with higher rates of autism, let's look at that and then compare their vaccination
Well, the
rates.
numbers did, and what the Big Pharma said is correlation does not mean causation. That's
And
what
that's
they
fact.
said.
And
They said correlation does not mean
And then we have to
causation.
consider every other variable that exists in human development and the
I
environment.
would agree with Tim there, and Cernovich talks about that a lot. But we do need to
Plastic.
look into why there's
Completely.
there's a
I
rise
agree.
in
There's other
special
stuff.
ed
It's not
kids,
just
kids with autism. It is rising dramatically.
I wonder why Peter
so
Hotez
this
would say
is my
it
point.
doesn't. Like, you got to say,
Right,
that's
right,
fine.
okay, okay. So
that's the thing. Is he's running
Okay.
cover for it. It's like
my point is, I do not like conspiracy theories.
I love them.
Because what people do is there's a big painting before you and they'll look at one portion of it and say that proves it. And I'm like, listen, if you want to talk about the transgender youth issue, if you want to talk about autism rates, there are 1,000 variables that need to be assessed in this before we can say we know for sure.
5G.
You certainly 5G perhaps. The advent of cellular technology over the 90s,
Yeah.
I believe absolutely has
Bluetooth headphones.
some degree
I mean, who
of impact
knows?
on the human body. And they say don't worry, it's
Little
non-ionizing
baby
radiation
in the womb. Wow.
So my issue is this. If we know that plastics are causing problems, birth control in the water, seeping into the water causing problems, and these are proven, we know that there's phthalates, PCBs, we have an increase in vaccination scheduling. All of those things are true. I will not come out and be like, but this one thing I will say definitively did thing. I don't know. We need and this is impossible to do. It's not necessarily impossible. We need a long-term study looking at children born in the 80s in a plastic-heavy country and children born in a country with no plastic. Then we need to take a similar data set. Kids born in a country with no plastic but high vaccination rates specifically from this brand, and kids born in countries with no plastic and no vaccination. It is very, very difficult to accurately get the information that we need to figure out what's really going on.
This is the most effective measure, and I do think, no disrespect to Alex here, but I think connecting autism and vaccines is counterproductive to actually figuring out what's going on with our kids, because then they just say, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, like you said. But instead, we should demand answers. It very well may be that vaccines, that is the issue, right? But until we demand answers and say, hey, why is this happening? Why is there a dramatic increase in kids with autism? Why do we have a dramatic increase in kids with learning disabilities?
I think it's plastics. I think we will
But
find
we need a
that
demand for that research.
I
and
think
that
it could be a
information.
combination of both, but I mean, listen, just everybody do not listen to me. I do not want to keep on spewing medical facts on here, but everybody needs to go watch the documentary Vaxxed with Del Bigtree. And that, I know, Tim, I'm just saying that will have some stats in there that you're going to say, even when they question Big Pharma, they have to say, oh, well, you're right. These numbers are weird and the scheduling is different. If we give them this at a lower age, they have less autism. But they say correlation does not mean causation. So I've seen the numbers. I mean, I've watched documentaries with the numbers in it, whatever. But my point is, these are real numbers from real agencies, and they look us in the face and say, "Oh well, I know you're putting 2 and 2 together, but sorry, it equals 5, not 4."
Yeah, rather than say that it causes, I think saying it may
final
be
thought.
contributing to.
Yes, maybe contributing.
Final-
That does not cause. That's a very good point.
Final thought, and we'll read more super chats. So we, because we've been talking about this. It is really simple. There exists, as hard as it may be, a trustworthy doctor. Mm-hmm. They exist, and maybe you're right. It's 99%. That means you got to make 100 phone calls before you find them. If you really do think you want sound medical advice, you better make 100 phone calls.
Well, Tim, I'll be honest. I looked at 50 different doctors before I got my penis enlargement, and I chose the wrong one.
Uh-oh.
And I'm paying for it every day. So
I'm sorry
Too big.
about that, man.
Too big.
Yeah, clear the way.
All right, let's read some more. Turkey Robot says, thanks for the shout out, Tim. If you liked that symbolism of the authoritarian regime in Silence Dogood, you're going to love the rest of the series. By the way, that president is based off Gavin Newsom. It may end up predicting the future. It's a really cool picture. It's clearly, Biden standing there going, but the symbol for the authoritarian regime, it's a red line and then a blue line going up and over.
Yeah, it looks
that
kinda
was
like
brilliant. Very, very well done.
I like how it was written, man. You guys, that was really good because it was almost cliche, but it wasn't. It became a very high-powered, fast action movie within like 6 pages. I really like that.
All right. Paul Tascalo says that DeSantis video was awful. That came across to me as anti-gay, very divisive. Trashing Trump because he isn't being mean enough to gay people. That is the best DeSantis can do. The DeSantis team is horrible. What DeSantis did in that video that I disagree with is that he conflated the current issue of the weird grooming of kids with 8 years ago Trump being like, hey, if you're gay, it's all right.
it did come off a little homophobic. The video, the Santis one.
I don't like that term. I don't know if it means anything.
I know they call me homophobic, but I'm just saying it did seem a little bit like Trump loves gays. I don't. It did have that vibe. Yeah, I mean, it's just
like the issue we have is.
I thought it was funny.
I'm not saying it was that bad, but that is the vibe it gave. Like,
Yeah,
Trump
it
holding
definitely
a flag,
seemed like-
and I put him in jail.
It was
like,
the first I heard Trump say that he would encourage a trans woman to use a bathroom with other girls. So I don't know how he still feels about that with Caitlyn Jenner. What he said.
Well, that
about
was a
Caitlyn
big
Jenner.
deal when Caitlyn Jenner went and pooped in Trump Plaza or whatever. But he would let Caitlyn Jenner go to his house, so Caitlyn Jenner is probably the one-off.
Yeah, I think he really doesn't care. But once you start to understand what is happening to kids,
I
then-
don't like the way they prop up Caitlyn.
Let's read some more. Kane Abel says RFK Jr. is a Democrat and has stated he is willing to work with the parties. I am voting for Trump 2024. Trump for the scorched earth policy. Fire them all. Agreed. Dave Murdoch Art says culture win. After being stonewalled by Steam for 30 days and banned in China, Drag the Dead will officially release 707. Pearl clutching zombie shooter starring Zayn Dimaj and Uncle Hotep. Oh, wow. We're taking the space back. Early access keys available. Timcast want one. You want to try that game?
Yeah. Send it to me on Twitter.
Hey, let me get one too. I'm a big gamer, so that sounds fun.
There you go.
Kellen PDL.
Let's grab some more super chats. Neeboop says, Megyn Kelly, when she grasped it. If you think these MAGA people will vote for anyone but Trump, you weren't paying attention. Correct. We cut the brakes in the Trump train. MAGA, ride or die.
Just not into party politics.
And the DeSantis people said the same thing. They said if it's Trump, they're not voting. So okay, then you get Newsom, I guess.
You're going to have to let go of the cult worship for this one.
Oh, everybody's been talking about Newsom. Who would be his running mate?
Michelle Obama.
I think Michelle would be the president.
Yes, she will.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I think he would be her running mate.
Dude, it's going to be Obama. Remember he joked, if I could just sit in my basement in my sweats and talk on the phone and have a front man, you guys laugh and think it's Joe Biden. No, it's Michelle. And she will be president, and it will be Obama, Barack, running the country for 8 years from his basement.
Barack was just at the White House with Joe Biden for a lunch earlier this
proves
week, I
it.
believe. So there's something going on.
Well, you know what makes me
It's
mad?
like they know each other or something.
But like they give us the impression like the Bidens and Obamas get along. No,
No,
way.
they don't.
No.
They hate each other.
No,
Barack's
remember
always-
Obama said never underestimate Joe's ability to F
mess
things
something
up?
Well, and they knew that Hunter was smoking crack for forever ago when he was vice president. The FBI found a rental car with crack cocaine.
Well, it's also
And Hunter-
because he was vlogging all of it.
Yeah.
All right. Alahad says, Tim, I love you, but you're wrong about the posting on Twitter. In Twitter, you have to search to get that type of content. It's not promoted like Google. I did not say it was promoted. If you post something on Twitter, it is available to the public. That would be akin to putting up a big poster in the front window of your home. Yes, people have to go and find it, but it is still readily displayed to the public, and you can't do that. It is a crime.
Is it? What if you have it in like a pile of trash out on your front lawn? There's like a picture, a nude picture, but it's stacked in a big pile of papers, and some kid goes up to it and sifts through the papers
the
and
judge.
finds it.
Yeah, that's different because if you threw it away, I think that's.
But we can create a million different scenarios, and ultimately it's just ask the
Ask
judge.
some random guy that happens
Yeah.
to be a judge
That's how it works.
that maybe didn't even have the internet when he was a kid.
Yep,
Probably
because
didn't.
this is how the law works. The law is human beings who make mistakes. It is remarkable to me, especially when you see in movies where someone will be like, "Did you sign the contract?" "I did." "You're screwed." Oh, that new show, the Black Mirror episode. Did you see the Black Mirror? Did you watch the new Black
Did
Mirror?
a new season come out?
Is there
Yeah.
one?
Oh, I love
let's
Black Mirror. I haven't seen the new
go.
season. I got
the new
something to watch.
the new season is just a series of
I
horror
don't even have
movies.
Netflix.
Yeah,
so-
basically.
The first episode is Black Mirror. The rest is just horror movies. So I enjoyed it. It's not Black Mirror though. It's just horror movies.
Oh, it's a new kind of show like Black Mirror.
No, it is Black Mirror.
Oh.
It's
it is called
the same
Black Mirror.
production company, but it's
It
kind of
is-
a different.
Yeah, the
Same
creator
people.
wasn't comfortable doing the dystopian stuff, so he's
But
kind
in
of changed gears.
the first episode, there is a. I'm not going to spoil the story for you if you haven't
Thank
seen it.
you.
There is a woman, and she has her lawyer going over a contract, and she goes, "How can they do this to me?" And she goes, "That's right here in the contract." And he goes, "But what? Are you kidding? That's in there too?" "Yep." "Well, then I'll do this." "Nope, that's in the contract as well." "Well, gee, gosh darn it, I guess they got me." That's not how law works.
Yeah.
You can be like, good luck enforcing that contract. There are companies that have non-competes in New York. You go before a judge, he'll be like, "Nah, tear it and throw it in the garbage bag. It's done. I've said so."
Yeah.
People don't understand that a judge can literally just be like, "Nope, have a nice day." They don't like being overruled in appeals and things like that, so they try to be correct. But it's a human being who says, "I don't think the law was intending that, so get
We
out."
should get some judges on
you
the
know,
show.
but you know where that's a real big deal though, Tim, is where the parents getting divorced and one parent wants to transition their kid behind their back, and it's a judge that gets to decide,
Right.
You know,
Who's in the right and who's in the wrong.
Yeah, literally. So it's some judge that has nothing in
Abolish
All right.
family
We also will
court.
never
gotta-
see
we
that
gotta
kid.
go- Good
Yeah,
one.
exactly. He has nothing in it.
Sean
Otherwise-
says, ATF's frame and receiver rule was vacated. The ATF tried to regulate the sale of 80% receivers, which aren't firearms by law. Firearms Policy Coalition just kept bending the ATF over a barrel. Does that mean that guy, what was this? There are people who got arrested over that, weren't there? Are they going to get the charges dropped now? You could buy kits where it was legally not a gun, and then you could get the parts to make and build your own gun, and they started going after people for it. So, interesting.
It's really
2 A's winning across the board. Let's grab some more super chats. Other man says, from what I know, a lot of women get put on the pill to help with endometriosis. Luckily, my sister said no. What is that? What is endometriosis?
Endometriosis is a rather painful condition, and it helps some women.
I believe scar tissue developing along
so
your uterus.
it makes your time of the month very painful.
It can cause infertility, things like that.
So that's helpful for some women, and if that's the trade-off they want. But
Yeah,
my
I think
issue's
you
more-
have to weigh the cost. What the problem with
Yeah.
birth control is that women aren't effectively or aren't really informed about the cost of birth control. So if you have extreme pain because of endometriosis, maybe this is the best course of action. But if you have bad cramping because you're not getting enough of a vitamin and they never test your vitamin levels, then probably birth control is not worth the risk.
It helps with cysts too, birth control. But they should know.
But it also is linked to an increased risk of cervical cancer and breast cancer. We
But,
have to weigh the risks.
Yes.
And it can't just be like, oh, you might gain weight, because I think that's the biggest risk that doctors warn women about, which is not enough.
Endometriosis is a condition where the tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows outside of the uterus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Oh, and that's another side effect of SSRIs is sometimes you overeat, weight gain. So that's not good if you're depressed to get fatter.
All right. Tikaz Graham says, while I'm for minimizing kids watching porn, jail for posting porn on Twitter is a bit much. Why not just ban the account? My response to this is, I find it remarkable that our society has eroded to the point where that is the assessment. That, well, it's only people, posting pictures of lewd and lascivious activities in public that kids can find, but maybe we should ask them to stop. It's like, okay, if that's your position, fine, but understand, 20 years ago, you'd get arrested if you did something like
What
that.
if it's a kid that posts it?
You get arrested for
Arrest them,
like,
throw them in juvie, or throw them in like a full penitentiary.
Like, dude, if you commit a crime, you get treated.
Like a
Look, if you
14-year-old
don't
or a
like the law,
13-year-old?
then change the law. Don't just be like, we've decided not to enforce it. Only here, though. That makes no sense. Like, the interpretation of the law is not an argument. Like, you're like, okay, I know it's the law, but what if this happened? What if this happened? What if this happened?
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
because we're kind of talking about the morality of the law. And the internet, it's so new, so we need new laws.
So,
and new
so I'll
ways
give you an
to
example.
Enforce them.
The law says that you can't take pictures of children and, you know, lewd pictures of children and share them. So they've begun arresting teenagers for posting on Snapchat.
Yeah, even if someone under 18 sends a picture of themselves to someone, they're distributing child porn.
The law does not say not of you. There's no exception for it. So they've arrested kids for this stuff.
Well, there's
And then judges need to, and they have said, okay, no, the purpose of a judge is to be like, the law is not intending to destroy the lives of children because they're doing dumb things on the internet. They'll get a slap on the wrist. Don't post this stuff again, but it's very, very different from what we're trying to stop.
Well, in states like Massachusetts, they're trying to just totally make it okay for peer-to-peers to send nudes, to engage in sexual intercourse.
Of any age?
Well,
Not any age.
Tim, you'll like
I think
this.
it's like 12 or 13. Yeah.
So there's this girl, Michelle Evans. I'll just tell the story real quick. She's actually being charged in Travis County because she was at the protest at the Capitol in Texas, and she just took a picture of a trans person in the bathroom. They weren't peeing; they were at the sink. And because it is legal to take a picture of a person in the bathroom, even though she didn't take it, she transferred it or transmitted it. She's being charged.
Wow.
Wait,
Yeah.
is that the photo
Michelle
where there
Evans.
was...
No, it's just a trans person
It's a different
in the
one.
Capitol, the Texas State Capitol, and they were just using the sink. And because it was a picture in a bathroom, even though it wasn't pornographic, it's she's being charged.
Whoa.
Michael TB says, Tim, you were wrong on the doctor thing. There are many dirty doctors out there. If you're not rich or you're in insurance plan, you don't have the choice. And then Jason Hutchison says, Tim is arguing ownership of self, of mind, and termination, and everyone else is going, someone should do the work for me because I want them to.
You know whose doctor I'd go to? I'd go to Prince Phillips or George Soros' doctor or Bill Gates. Maybe not Bill Gates, but Prince Philip, he lived to what, like 109 or whatever, 101.
Wow.
Good doctor.
Yeah, that's whose doctor I want. But he's probably a lizard, so it doesn't matter. So
I like talking to doctors about meditation.
I can't stand defeatism. And like, if there's only 1 in 1,000 doctors who are good, it is your responsibility to call the 1,000 doctors till you find them. Ain't nobody gonna do it for you.
Prince Philip was 100. Almost. 99.
So pretty good.
Yeah, man. I agree. When people are scared and they are going to a doctor and they feel like they have to make a split-second decision because their body's health is on the line, that's when I worry the most, that bad information can really screw someone. So you got to just stay calm. There's no rush.
Yeah, because listen, there are doctors that can help you out. I'm not saying every single doctor, wants you dead. I don't believe that at all. I'm just saying generally these doctors they're not legally allowed to actually basically doctor with their mind. They have to follow certain protocols, and if they don't, they lose their livelihood. So that's why I don't trust them.
There were doctors in the past that would prescribe drinking mercury.
I know, and
syphilis.
ones that used to prescribe cocaine. I'm trying to find one now. I wish I had a time machine. They used to take morphine and cocaine.
I just say this. I remember the story where some kid had a genetic disease and there was a cure for it, and it cost $1 million. So the family sued the state, being like, "You have to give it to us because, the kid
poor,
because it exists." And the state was like, "We would have to get. We don't have the money to do something like this." So my answer is, you are not entitled to any doctor. You're not entitled to a good doctor. You're not entitled to good medical care. You're entitled to what you work hard to find. And if that means every doctor is really bad, but one is 1 degree better, it is your responsibility to find the doctor who's better than the
Well, in
rest.
Canada, you're entitled to it.
You're literally not, though.
Well, what about entitled to fire
do you mean?
department?
The government saying you can go in and get a service does not mean you'll get good service.
Yeah, I know you're going to get terrible service, but...
And so you have no guarantee towards good health care. Like...
Yeah, but like if you broke your arm, you wouldn't, like, this is the problem. There's people that are afraid to call an ambulance and they'll call an Uber to go to the emergency room.
Well, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Right. My point is, you're not actually entitled to anything.
Oh, I get what you're saying, yeah.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends. You can follow the show at TimCastIRL. You can follow me at TimCast. Become a member at timcast.com. You want to shout anything out, Alex?
Go right now! All 30,000! Primetime with Alex Stein! Follow it now! I'm going to lose my job at the Blaze if you're not going to subscribe right now! Primetime with Alex Stein, please. I want to keep my job.
Ashley.
You can find me on Twitter at St. Clair Ashley. You can get my book, Elephants Are Not Birds, and you should check out thebabylonbee.com. Thanks, Tim.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for timcast.com. It's been a fun show with both of you. You should follow at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to follow me personally, you can find me on Instagram at hannahclaire.b and on Twitter at HCBrimlow. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you guys. I'm Ian Crossland. That was so fun. I want to do this uncensored. Please, let's do this uncensored.
Well, to that point, every vaccine is safe and effective. We just want to make that. It's all safe. It's all safe and effective.
Uncensored, where it gets hot and heavy and real.
It's Friday.
I think we're not doing an uncensored one tonight, but what I've been thinking lately is like, if we're fully uncensored, we might not get the ad revenue, but we'll get more subscribers, like $10 a month. So maybe it would be wise to just go full hog.
That's why we do both.
Yeah. We also have Kellen, am I right?
Yeah, the uncensored ones are fun, but I feel like we're not that spicy in general, you know? Maybe we are. Maybe we are. I'm not. Anyway, you follow me at Kellen PDL. This one was a fun one.
You only said that because I was looking at him.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a blast. We'll be back with clips throughout the weekend, and then we'll be back Monday. We're going to have a really awesome Culture Wars show next Friday, so go to youtube.com/Timcast. Don't miss it. We had a great episode today debating this morning. Again, youtube.com/Timcast, and we'll see y'all next time.